What's up guys, Chaos Shinobi here. This is what if Naruto loses everything and is reborn. Summary: Naruto was eventually on the verge of losing everything including his life. That was when an almighty god sent him into the body of another Naruto, the 4'9" ramen lover of the leaf. Now with a clean slate. Chapter 1, Naruto was in disparity, lost and confused, only running to escape. Almost as if even attempting to escape was a mere formality. The sound of rain resonated in his mind, its noise only amplified, giving him headaches. They say Anbu can give chase to enemies running at 15 to 30 km per hour for a week without resting. Elite Anbu can do 30 to 55 km per hour for a month. Naruto, who was once the leader of the elite Anbu faction, second only to the Hokage, could run full speed for over 2 months, picking up fruits and berries for food without ever faltering at his pace. But now, he was using that speed and stamina not for giving chase, but for running away. SSS rank criminal Naruto Uzumaki. Offense: user of the Shaijutsu, Kirujutsu, and Ansatsu Jutsu. 3 styles are forbidden by the 7th Sage, and use of it to bring about the destruction of the Leaf Village and helping the collapse of the ninja world. Other notes: proficient in every chakra style, ex-leader of Leaf's Elite Anbu, and was once offered the role of Kage from another nation while still acting as Leaf Elite Anbu. Run on sight unless Elite Anbu level or above. Cunning and intelligent. Why did it turn out this way? Naruto heard this thought inside his head. It wasn't his thought, but it seemed as if another person entered his mind and thought this for him. Are you willing for a second chance? Naruto knew this was a question for him to answer. But the answer itself was unknown to him. Look down at your hands. He complied and saw blood. I don't need to tell you whose blood that is. It was the blood of your mistake. It was the blood that was shed by your only love. The one you adored like no other, the one who was taken by them. And you still need to think before answering my question? Do you want a second chance, goddammit? The blood on his hands was slowly fading away, as even the rain tried to take what was left of them away. I want a second chance. You don't sound convinced, mortal. Pick your head up and ask me for a second chance like you really wanted, Naruto Uzumaki. I want it. I see, well then. The voice spoke calmly again as if to soothe Naruto. Your second chance will begin. The world will be different this time, one that is more fitting for your needs. As long as you can survive for the next hour, I can make you enter your parallel self, the 10-year-old child who knows no better than eating ramen 3 meals a day and drinking spoiled milk. Your memories will be transferred, but unfortunately, your skills are out of the question. You will need to remaster them. Remember, grow into your ideal self, and live prosperously, Naruto Uzumaki. Tsunizu. Naruto smiled, to survive for 1 hour, for undoing everything that ruined him. It was but a small price to pay for salvation. He stopped and turned around, and the oars that were closing onto him were slowing down in suspicion. They got near and Naruto activated his attack. He was gonna go fighting, like a true shinobi, without a trace. He woke up from a soft bed, the sunlight shining through his window. The sky was blue and the sun was at its brightest. The sky was blue. The sky was blue. Back in his world, the sky was always covered in clouds like a melancholy gray, and rain was a common occurrence. Yet the sky was blue. Flashback. Jiraiya placed a hand on Naruto's head, and smiled. There was a large spike through his belly, yet his hand was relaxed and his smile natural. Naruto, look for the blue skies. This world, covered by the endless gray clouds and dark sky, are covering up an endless sea of blue. Before you die. He coughed out blood, you must see it for me. Jiraiya finished talking, blood now free-flowing from his mouth. He patted Naruto's head one last time, before his firm grip was limp, eyes dead, and his life gone. I shall find it for you, Jiraiya-sensei. Arigato. Rest in peace. End of flashback. There it was. A sky with barely a trace of clouds. Yet even the clouds were a pure white, in perfect harmony with the vivid blue sky, as if they were meant to belong. Can you see me, Jiraiya-sensei? I found it. It's right there, right in front of me. I fulfilled your final wish. Rest in peace, sensei. Naruto stared at the sky longer, realized why Jiraiya wanted to see it so much. Your troubles really do feel insignificant, don't they? Now ready to get on with his new life. He wondered what was his role here. The mysterious god who put him there couldn't have done it without reason. It was simply the fruits of your karma. The gods have wronged you, and the life which was supposed to be yours and filled with happiness, was filled with sorrow. And hence, you became just as corrupted, and ruined your good karma. Your actions are your own, and I cannot change them, but I can do right. This world is yours. It will be filled with sorrow, yet, this time, you will have just as much happiness. This is simply reimbursement, is that what you're saying? Ha! That is correct. I guess no matter how I spin my words, that is the essence. Yes, this is reimbursement. You don't even have to become a shinobi. You can live modestly as an artisan, or lavishly as a merchant. Nothing carries over, and those who have done you wrong in your last life, won't necessarily do the same in this life. I can only hope you don't hold a grudge. Any questions? What is your name? My name is Tsunizu, and you Naruto, are the one I chose to be my prophet. And as such, I have bestowed upon you a new name, Naruto Uzumaki Tsunizu. My name, broken into 3 parts, means one figure. I am a god amongst gods, an anomaly of sorts. When my presence is shown, they only see one figure, me. Said the voice in a haughty yet cheesy tone. Naruto laughed heartily at the sheer cheesiness of his backstory. Had he tried a bit harder, he could have come off as powerful, giving vibes of a powerful and epic warrior, or even a man of great status, and his story far more impressive, but it was just whittled down to cheesiness. The voice laughed alongside him. Laughter is the best way to make friends. The problem is, how to incite laughter. Jokes don't work all the time, so the second best way to bring about laughter is self-mockery. Jiraiya, ha! Laughing with a god is an honor. Consider yourself blessed, Naruto. The voice spoke haughtily again, only to laugh even more. That tone doesn't quite suit you, Tsunizu. No, it does not. Anyway, something you should know, this body is the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox, something you didn't have in the previous life. Its name is Kurama, and is missing half of itself. The missing half was sealed inside your father in his dying moments, taking it out with him. This village has only got until the 4th Hokage, unlike your old life where this village was controlled by the 13th Hokage. Your father was the 4th Hokage, but due to his death, the village is being reigned by your grandpa, the 3rd Hokage. Of course, nobody knows that. You're 10, and under heavy and often violent prejudice for being a Jinchuriki. The village has a shinobi school which you currently go to, although if you wish to stray from that path in this life, you can simply drop out. Do I have any friends, people I should know about? The people running Ichiraku's ramen are very friendly towards you. They were blessed by the ramen gods, and are the descendants of the ramen god himself. They know the difference between the kunai and scroll. I recommend not going into populated areas. Your presence is enough to start a violent revolution against you. You haven't done anything illegal, but prejudice always remains wherever you go. And one last thing, in this life, you are considered an idiot. You show hints of tactical brilliance, but very intellectually lacking. Try to ease in your intelligence, and LD it up over time so people aren't suspicious. Your skills don't carry over, but your thoughts and the working of your minds do, so you can always relearn them. Although the one requirement is, unless a skill is physical, and practically muscle memory, like your silent step, flicker technique, all your martial arts, etc., those are carried over. I'm not sure how, since they shouldn't, but they did, and you should be able to use them. Also, your size should be able to get used after a day or two. My size? 4'9" inches. What? I couldn't help it, okay. Anyways, I will be watching over you from the heavens, and you can always talk to me upon request. Physical interference is banned, so I can't help you with those kinds of things, though certain loopholes are permitted. Anyways, school starts at 10, meaning 10 minutes, and your clothes are in the closet. There was a little beep, showing Tsunizu had left, and Naruto was left all alone. He couldn't remember his last memories in old life, and he could only remember getting into a fighting stance, and then the sound of several explosions. Quickly getting up, quickly analyzing his room, as well as identifying the closet Tsunizu was talking about. He could smell traces of spoiled milk, and assumed his amazing sense of smell carried over too. After a brief body checkup, knowing he was on the clock, he found out that his muscle strength and flexibility was the same, probably carried over as well, far exceeding that of a 10-year-old's. Meaning other than the height difference, his martial arts and general movement type skills should have the same effect. They were hints of bruises and scars not so much befitting a 10-year-old's. This body also has a high tolerance to pain, as a very hard pinch on the cheek told him. This kind of body he achieved when he was 14, mostly due to the hellish Anbu training. Just what did this kid, go through? I guess this was Tsunizu meant by violent prejudice. I'll consider this as the equivalent of a stealth mission. Don't get seen, and most of all, don't get caught. Don't get seen, and most of all, don't get caught. Naruto's Anbu stealth teacher, Cocoon. His real name is hidden to this day, legends say, and even the 13th Hokage doesn't know it either. If that says anything about his skills, at least it can be said that he is worthy to teach the art of stealthiness to Anbu. His home was nice and spacious, although looking outside and considering the houses around, his home might be considered shabby and cramped. It was plenty unorganized, But that wasn't a problem at all. Then the most important one of all? This body wasn't activated. Meaning that he couldn't use his 3 arts, Shiijutsu, Kirujutsu, and Ansatsu-jutsu, death arts, vanishing arts, and assassination arts. Activation was a very special process, done in a special room called the Akuma no Heya. Without it, use of the 3 arts was practically impossible. His chakra was wind type, unlike his previous lighting type. Although since he had mastery over every single chakra type before, switching affinities shouldn't be a problem. Now with just 2 minutes left, Naruto opened his closet, revealing an unpractical orange jumpsuit with blue highlights. "I'll have to go shopping sometime later." He changed quickly, when he noticed the Uzumaki logo on his left sleeve. He smiled, glad that he was at least in the Uzumaki family. With his black shirt untucked, and jacket unzipped, making the outfit more breathable, and 30 seconds left on the clock, Naruto was out the window, a movement that he felt was habit, despite something he almost never does. Maybe a habit of the old Naruto in this world. Assuming everything he heard about himself was true, it wasn't hard to get a rough grasp of his school life. With 5 seconds left on the clock, Naruto showed up to the door out of breath. This body has almost no stamina. Did he get by on sheer willpower or what? Naruto thought jokingly, oblivious to the fact that it was true. Tsuneizu chuckled at the irony. He took a spot when the bell rang, next to a person who reeked of dogs and a blue-haired person who was best described by the word emo. When class started, a person with a large scar across the bridge of his nose and a green vest walked in. He seemed to have a relatively high chakra signature compared to many of the students, who could be considered weak Shin'an level. Judging by that much, the sensei was at least Chunin. Upon walking in, many of the students, which were joking around and not the least bit even concerned about class, quickly filed into line, dropping conversations on the dot, and sitting in any open spot. The teacher waited a few more moments till there was pin-drop silence, then proceeded to class. "As you know, the exams are tomorrow. I recommend eating well and getting a good night's sleep. Try not to overexert yourself in training today or you'll only be half as efficient tomorrow. Remember, there are 3 parts to the test: projectile throwing, ninjutsu prowess, and basic combat. There are 25 points in each test, and then an additional 25 points for the questions the instructors ask you after the test. They won't be simple history questions or things of the sort. Actually, it's best if I don't tell you, but I can say you won't have to study much." Naruto sighed. He might have problems in the ninjutsu parts, since even pulling off clones with his chakra coils this big, would require chakra precision among the jounins. Well, he had a day to learn more and more, which was often more than what the Anbu allowed before missions. After a brief lesson in training chakra control, they went outside for taijutsu spars. As they did, many of the girls fawned towards Mr. Emo, who seemed not to care. Mr. Emo did have chakra coils far exceeding a child only just about to become Jinan, and judging by his muscle formation, he was proficient in taijutsu. Of course, Naruto dropped his standards a lot, knowing they were just 10-year-olds. "You can see muscle formations?" "Yup, when a person walks, they subconsciously use the same muscles mainly used in taijutsu. Hence, the better you are at taijutsu, the more certain muscles become tensed or relaxed during walking. When one realizes this, simply walking in front of them is enough to give them a good understanding of your skill level. Anbu usually have special training to dominate the movement of every single muscle, consequently leading us to being very sensitive to how we move, as well as noticing the muscles of others. I was only reborn recently, so I do not know much of this world or yours. So I might ask a few questions." "Reborn? What does that mean?" A beep in his mind told Naruto Tsuneizu had already stopped talking to him. "That turd head," Naruto said out loud, gathering the gaze of his many students. When accidentally directing that much attention to himself, his first instinct was to pull out a kunai and massacre, a habit from being a criminal for so long. Next was his instinct to use the flicker technique in double time out of there, a habit from being influenced by Anbu so early in his life. Suppressing his urge, he chuckled clumsily and put a hand on the back of his head. "Sorry, I saw a dung beetle and couldn't help myself," Naruto said. Many students sighed like it was normal and turned back to the battle. Some students offered a glare alongside it. A peculiar person looked on the ground in hopes of seeing a dung beetle. He had a black glasses and wore a tan high collar. The battle finished, a minute of 2 equally clumsy people duking it out with each other, when Mr. Emo the promising one and Mr. Dog Breath stepped onto the stage. Judging by the looks of the classmates, they were the creme de la creme of the class. Naruto wondered how strong the Jinan were during the 4th Hokage times. His world had a 13th Hokage, so his was in the 13th Hokage times. The phrase creme de la creme is a French idiom, directly translating to cream of the cream. Means to be one of the best among others. In this usage, The class is the cream, and Sasuke and Kiba are the cream of the cream. Mr. Dog Breath requested an open ring, where stepping outside the boundary was legal. The sensei looked towards Mr. Emo, and simply nodded. An open ring match came with other unsaid rules. Injuries and dismemberment of limbs was allowed. D-rank jutsus and below were allowed. Interference from outside parties was prohibited, unless both parties agreed to. On request of Kiba, this will be an open ring spar. Try not to take the battle too far, and please keep your attacks away from the rest of us. Let's have a clean, nice fight. Begin. As Ziraka's hand went down, Kiba stood on all fours and galloped towards Mr. Emo, whom Naruto still didn't know the name of. After making his way to Emo, Kiba lunged while spinning, hands out, imitating a drill. Emo brought up his fist and blocked the first impact, then raised his knee and connected it with Kiba's chest. He then did a backflip with his knee still on his chest to add more force to his head. Kiba coughed some blood, but he quickly regained his sense and smiled. Sasuke finished his backflip and rushed forward, only to see blood on Kiba's nails. Looking down, his knee was cut open, blood gushing. When he noticed, the pain hit. Now limping, Sasuke did a strategic retreat, rushing into the forest where the spars were conducted. Kiba followed in strong pursuit. Being a sensor and tracking type ninja by nature, his speed was much above Sasuke, hurt knee or not. They quickly were far from the class, in a big game of hide and seek. Kiba, who was still to train his nose, had to rely on his ears and sight. He was embarrassed to say that his nose was underdeveloped, but knew it could be fixed with chakra modification. Although his ears failed him, due to the numerous noises in the forest, plus Sasuke was extremely good at masking himself, his eyes were constantly on the lookout. Blood was sprayed everywhere, incoherently and without direction, showing that Sasuke was still masking his exact location, but more importantly, he was still thinking clearly. After a few minutes of searching, Sasuke showed himself. His knee was well bandaged and there were traces of pain-numbing leaves on his wound. Kiba growled. His main advantage against Sasuke was no longer as advantageous. Now with a fiery thirst for revenge, Sasuke was quick on the offense, using classic bobbing and weaving styles to whiz around the trees, disorientating Kiba severely. Along with that, Sasuke cleverly used substitutions and clones to further disorient Kiba. Now impatient and still revenge-driven, Sasuke leapt, and managed to slash Kiba's back with a kunai. He receded back to the trees and threw numerous shuriken. One hit on his left leg and the other on his left arm. Sasuke rushed in again, using various attack patterns and continuously lightly slashing Kiba, not enough to count as an injury, but more than to count as a big scratch. Many times over and over again dealt ample pain to every crevice of Kiba's body. After a painful number of minutes, Kiba was unable to fight back, and Sasuke was tired. His revenge was more than satiated, and he had started hoping Kiba would give up a few minutes ago. Now tired and in pain, Kiba surrendered spitefully, and Sasuke let out a small smile, and held out his hand. Kiba smiled and used it to get up. Sasuke put Kiba's hand around his shoulder and helped him get to the stadium. Usually he would leave him for somebody else to pick up, but nobody was around. Naruto, who used double step around when Sasuke and Kiba sprinted into the forest, was watching the whole time. Impressed by Sasuke's ruthlessness, a weird fetish many Anbu develop, and have to work hard to get rid of. Naruto embraced this fetish with open arms, often using it as an incentive to fight. Now noticing Sasuke's chivalry in helping Kiba return, Naruto nodded approvingly, and jumped down from the tree he was watching from. As Sasuke walked sluggishly, having to support another person as well, Naruto popped up from around the corner. "Need help?" said Naruto, smiling warmly and unhostile. Sasuke jumped back, and Kiba was shocked and wanted to jump back as well, but couldn't move. "I didn't notice him? How?" His chakra was always so large and evident it was impossible to miss. "I might be tired." No, it was something more. But it was Naruto. The dead last. He couldn't have possibly hid his chakra that well. "Must be a fluke." "I don't need your help," said Sasuke, turning his head to look away, as if his gaze was too important to be directed to Naruto. Unfortunately, acting arrogantly in front of Naruto was a mistake. Naruto dashed forward, picking up a stick, and poked Sasuke's injured knee 5 times, causing his knee to buckle and making Sasuke and Kiba fall. Even while falling, Naruto poked his knee an additional 3 times, and then after falling, another 4 times. "Still don't need my help?" Sasuke was embarrassed beyond doubt, and agreed. Now supporting both of them, Naruto walked carefully. He was practically carrying them, making sure to release chakra into their systems to keep their regeneration high. After Naruto reached the end of the forest, he nodded at Sasuke, and let them go. Using the pretext he had to go find something he lost, Naruto walked backward, only to double step into his position in the crowd. Sasuke was piqued by his newfound interest in Naruto. He had his eye constantly on the forest, to make sure Naruto came out. When class was over, Sasuke insisted on waiting for Naruto, although the class frowned at him, which was weird for Sasuke. Naruto patted Sasuke on the shoulder and told him he's probably delusional from the whole claw to the knee thing, and to go back to class. Sasuke was shocked. He didn't notice Naruto leave the forest at all. Despite the class's assurance that his knee was fogging his thinking, and Naruto was always with the rest of the class, and he should go rest, Sasuke was well aware of what happened. Delusional people have their memories hazy and incoherent, but Sasuke's was fresh and sharp. Naruto was certainly there, and he appeared and disappeared without a trace after helping them. Plus, Sasuke could still sense some of Naruto's chakra on his system. Naruto was most certainly there. Sasuke checked Kiba too and sensed his chakra in him too. After school was over, Sasuke sought out to see Naruto, only to find him long gone. It also seemed no one saw him leave, which was abnormal due to the rather high prejudice against him. Almost always, there was somebody waiting to attack Naruto. Sasuke noticed but never wanted to step in. There must be a reason, he deducted, but no one noticed and he just slipped away? No, impossible. He asked a person for Naruto's house, and he grinned while telling him his address, and ending his answer with a "give him a few injuries for me too." Confused yet somewhat enraged, Sasuke nodded awkwardly. Why did people hate Naruto so much? I was thinking, many people got their mind brainwashed into believing Naruto is a monster by their friends and family. But at the time, Sasuke had no friends or family, so he shouldn't be affected much. Upon reaching his home, the first thought was how could anyone live here? He knocked, and heard a small sound, before eerie silence. He opened the unlocked door and saw a mess of a place. As well numerous traces of blood and an unnatural amount of used and stored bandages. Sasuke was slowly on his way to realizing something very dark about Naruto. Although right now, he was currently convinced Naruto was a murderer. After looking around, he saw no one, and started searching through his belongings. He saw plenty of used instant ramen, and practically no dishes in his ownership. Does he live off this stuff? Wondered Sasuke, holding up a half-eaten ramen. On its side was a trace of dried blood. He slowly dug up more and more, now searching specifically for the scroll that Naruto used to learn the technique. Of course there was none and he was searching for gold in the wrong mine. Sasuke found a folder that was very big and locked closed. Is this it? Looking for a way to open, he realized he had some of Naruto's chakra. He had enough for opening about 5 locks, so he used one and the folder opened to reveal a large collection of papers. He took one out and saw something at the bottom of the page, the Konoha's hospital insignia. He read its contents. I'm assuming Naruto was born on October 10, 1984 in this next section. Why 1984? It's my favorite book right now in the dystopian genre. 1984 by George Orwell, amazing story. Patient, Naruto Uzumaki number 1135. Age, 5 days. Date, October 15, 1984. Reason of admission, heavy wounding and severe internal bleeding, numerous near-fatal cuts injuries. Other notes, was injected with snake venom instead of nutrient fluids. Was attacked once during recovery. Nurses refused to tend to him. Healed rapidly, though thoroughly set back due to numerous attempts on his life. To say the least, Sasuke was not expecting that. He hoped that the other things in the folder were different, that this was a one-time freak accident. He looked further into the folder, and read all of it. There were all pages nearly identical to the one he first read, if anything, more severe. And there were pages for almost every single day of Naruto's life. He was a regular at the hospital, yet even till the most recent one, in the other notes section, the nurses refused to tend to him. Suddenly, all those bandages made sense, and his uncanny stealthiness natural. It was almost as if every time he was seen, he would be thrashed to near death. Of course he would have to be stealthy to survive. He remembered what that one person told him, give him a few injuries for me too. And he wondered how many people from his class were involved in this too. By this point, Sasuke was looking for things far beyond a simple stealth technique. He felt remorse for Naruto, and felt his chest become heavy at the thought of all those things Naruto constantly bared. Was this Naruto the same person that showed up almost all the time to school without fail? With a smile on his face and doing antics to make the class laugh. A caring personality and a will for helping out? Could he really still be the same person who helped Kiba and him out in the forest when neither could move? Could he really still be this way after dealing with all this? Or is it all a hopeless facade? Naruto never once complained about his problems or used them as an excuse. Sasuke remembered that occasionally, Naruto had a very pained look to class, and under the ruse of sleeping, there were tears on his sleeve. Was this the reason why? And all this thinking led him to wonder, why did no one notice this sooner, or were they all part of his pain? Chapter 2. After around 2 hours of heavy reading, Naruto had come to understand the basic workings of the world he is in. The 7th Path Sage is actually the 6th Path Sage, since this sage refused to accept the 7th path of evil in his lifetime. This led to the 3 arts never existing, and hence not forbidden. Of course, this also means that the Akuma no Heya was never created, but in this world, the 7th path of evil was very clearly described, and with some thinking and T&D, Naruto could embody the 7th path, and create the Akuma no Heya, activate himself, then ditch the 7th path. Why ditch it? The 7th path comes with a curse of pain and sorrow, which Naruto refused to compromise for power. Also, Anbu are named after animals, not things. In this world, Anbu cocoon would actually be Anbu caterpillar or butterfly, fur would be dog, and such. Elite Anbu aren't a separate faction, and simply operate as VIPs within the Anbu workforce. Also, the standards in this world are very high, not that it was a problem, but in his old world, during the 8th Shinobi Wars, 3 consecutive wars with only about a month between them, each lasting about 5 years, they needed many more shinobi. So they signed the Premature Shinobi Drafting Act where Jonin were allowed in the war. Then came the Shinobi Force Increase Act which allowed people to become shinobi easier, and be put into the war. Assuming this world doesn't have those 2 acts, the standards are still high and the lives of every shinobi was important. Second, the Leaf Village is the strongest, instead of the Lighting Village. Ever since Minato Namikaze entered the war, he led the Leaf on the path to greatness, before his unrivaled ascension to the role of Gage. Along with this, many shinobi wished to live up to Minato's skill, and trained recklessly. It worked as a mass quality upgrade for the Leaf Village. Not only this, but the academy went through many changes to make training of shinobi much more efficient. This helped provide excellent footing for many of the new shinobi to grow wonderfully. And mostly above all, they allowed international matches, to allow ample competition for Jonin and Chunin, boosting their growth and giving many shinobi a goal. Naruto was by now already fired up for greatness. He had no plans to let himself down in a village as amazing as this. Plus, he was excited to meet his wife. Sure, they weren't married now, but at least she was alive. About that, your wife was a world-specific identity. It's a little complicated, but since every world is different, and they only get more and more different over time. As such, eventually, people are added and removed. Your wife was one of those added, and hence, she was a world-specific identity. Naruto slumped, so he had only one chance, But, since what happened, and he had vowed to himself to let old pages mold. A/N, the idiom let old pages mold is the equivalent of starting a new chapter in the sense that he would leave the past alone to let it mold and decay. Now ready for basic day-to-day living, he read up on basic etiquette and rules, and while at it, picked up a few D-rank jutsus to not seem suspicious. Then after spending over 4 hours in the library, he went to the nearest training grounds. Till sunset, he practiced his cloning. Sure, he could pull off 1 or 2. But the chakra coils of this body were at least twice as large as his previous body. Oi. Who are you? Sunizu? Who the hell is Sunizu? I am Naruto Uzumaki of the Hidden Leaf, future Hokage. PFFFT, I'm Naruto Uzumaki Sunizu, Baka. Well, you both are right, said Sunizu, in a neutral voice. When Naruto Sunizu entered Naruto Uzumaki's body, their consciousness was occupying the same body, and hence coexisted. You'll have to figure stuff out. Although I can only say now, Naruto Tsunezu is the one in control. 2 Narutos in the same Naruto, but both Narutos are different, but now one but still 2 yet as one? I think you might be confusing yourself, but it seems as though you have the right idea. You two have to learn to coexist. Of course the 2 Narutos could handle 2 different tasks, such as thinking and working, or fighting and conversing. If I were honestly speaking, I would want Uzumaki to help tame Kurama as Uzumaki Tsunezu deals with the outside world. Keep his emotions in check and train your chakra coils into becoming bigger and sharper. So while this brat takes over my body, I train in the background so that he can get even better? This is unfair. He should be the one training in the background, not me. Well, talk it out. Sigh. What about this? You train in the background, while I work, and when we enter a fight, you can help me out. As in, you stay on the lookout for chakra signatures, and pay attention to my peripheral vision, as well as navigation and other things I might not have noticed. What do I get? Uzumaki Tsunezu thought about this for a second. If you can do this successfully, I will lead you to greatness. Naruto Uzumaki grinned, since for him, greatness was in becoming Hokage, and the person was promising to make him a Hokage, which was amazing. Deal. Good to be working with you. Now that Naruto, We're gonna call the other Naruto in, or Naruto, or IN for short, had dealt with IN. All that was left was dinner, a nighttime jog, and then sleep before the test tomorrow. Sasuke had dug through most of Naruto's house, uncovering more and more secrets about his life. He learned Naruto was an orphan since birth, and was put into an orphanage by the third himself. However, the orphanage rarely gave him a place to sleep or food to eat. He was as good as homeless. He left at 4, and bought a small residence with some money the third gave him, which was apparently this place, and became fully independent. However, the landlord who had control over his residence refused any kind of repairs or fixes that were included with the lease. Not only that, shopkeepers often tripled or quadrupled their prices for Naruto, claiming false taxes and other wild excuses. Milk normally sold for 10, could be sold for up to 50 for Naruto, and the milk would be most likely spoiled or defective produce. Most of his belongings were overpriced, and if he paid the same amount for his home, but fairly, Naruto could be living in a mansion with a whole army of maids and butlers. Not knowing how long it had been since he entered Naruto's house, Sasuke sat down, tired and exhausted, but most of all, shocked to the core. He noticed a very expensive box in the corner of his living room, and opened it, to find a ripped red scarf. Why would he keep this? Sasuke shrugged. Must be important, perhaps a part of his parents. He placed the scarf back into the box and back to where it was. He realized he had a test tomorrow, and that, coupled with a large roar from his stomach, showed just how hungry and tired he of a sudden, a voice spoke. "Wanna stay for dinner? Seeing how you're already here, it wouldn't be right to leave a hungry guest. I'd regret it," said the voice from the door. Sasuke jumped at Naruto's sudden voice, to see him leaning on the doorframe. Now caught in an evident case of trespassing, Sasuke beelined to his home, and managed to make it out of the window, when Naruto grabbed his collar and pulled him back with tremendous strength. "Fast. We can't have you leaving so soon, right?" said Naruto, a dangerous smile on his face, much different from what he saw in the forest. Naruto reached into his pocket, and Sasuke was ready for a fight, when he pulled out a coupon. "Vegetables are 20% off today. It would be a shame for such a rare chance to go unused," said Naruto, a shine in his eyes. Sasuke sighed, and nodded. "Sure." Naruto put down his books, which Sasuke noticed. Konoha's history, basic courtesy in all 5 hidden villages, beginnings of the shinobi world? What does he need these for? Sasuke followed Naruto out of the door and into the streets. Naruto looked twice before grabbing Sasuke's collar again. "Let's make this trip faster," said Naruto, before double-stepping into the store with Sasuke on his trail. "Please, give me more adequate warning before you do that," Sasuke wheezed out, now nauseous. They walked into the shop, and pickled out some basic vegetables, as well as some instant ramen and milk. They got to the counter, and showed the coupon for 20% off, and the shopkeeper snickered. "Well, these veggies are about 500, and the milk another 100, 3 instant ramen packets sum up to 600, and unfortunately, the coupon expired yesterday." Then paired with another 100 as a shopping tax and another 100 for basic necessities, like light and cooling. "It comes out to 1,400. "That much for just this? I usually can get this for at most 600. Naruto sighed, and pulled out 1,500, and gave it to the cashier. The cashier then put the stuff in the bag. However, he switched out the vegetables with rotten ones, and the milk with spoiled ones, and gave it to Naruto, with a smile on his face, much more happy than one of simply earning a bit of money, like he was satisfied with something. Sasuke and Naruto noticed this switch out, as well as the lack of his 100 change. Naruto sighed and walked out, smiling. Sasuke was confused. He knew Naruto noticed, so why didn't he do anything? Why? Better not cause unwarranted commotion. If they all hate me, so be it. If they all cheat me, then that's fine by me. It doesn't bother me. But I guess dinner is just instant ramen for us. Sorry, said Naruto, grim and almost depressed. The two Jonin walked off. When Naruto took a turn to his home, there was a large group waiting outside. A man from the group came to meet them, and he was big and burly. "Oh, look who came. We were waiting for you at your home, but you weren't there. You didn't perhaps try to run away, did you? Well, now that you're here, let your big brothers take care of you. You trust your big brothers, don't you, monster?" Sasuke knew what was about to come, and all this cruelty would only lead to another paper locked away in a folder. "I have a test tomorrow, so could you please postpone this later?" "A test, you say? Hear that? The monster is worried about a test," said the man jokingly, before punching Naruto in his belly, sending him flying. "You're getting easier and easier to punch. Have you been eating well?" Sasuke stood in front of Naruto, to save him. The man ignored him, and simply pushed right through him. The man looked down confused, to see what he bumped into, but shrugged it off. Sasuke found it peculiar. Did he not see me? Now that I think about it, that shopkeeper would not have done something like that with me around. Did Naruto do something? Now that it clicked, Sasuke remembered that Naruto had grabbed his collar to go to the store. He looked and sure enough, there was a seal under his collar. He pulled it off, revealing himself. But no one noticed him still. He then looked at the other part of the collar Naruto pulled him from, and there was a seal there too. He went to pull it out, rushing so that he could save Naruto, only to have a rock flicked onto his hand. It came from Naruto's direction, and Naruto gave him a weak smile, while mouthing, "Run away." Sasuke refused and tried again, only to have the rock flick him away much more powerful. The victim of the hate crime, Naruto, wasn't even feeling pain. Sure, he had a high pain tolerance, but his body was already so well developed that none of the punches did significant damage. But he couldn't fight back until he got Sasuke out of the scene. That being said, Sasuke was hesitant. If he left him, then he would be no worse than the rest of the class, who constantly target Naruto. After all, even in today's crowd, there were some familiar faces. Naruto was really getting impatient, his rate slowly bubbling. He managed to smile and mouthed, "I'll be fine. I still owe you dinner." Sasuke nodded. He would call for help. He just hoped Naruto could hang on till then. When Sasuke finally turned and dashed, Naruto grinned. First order of business was to get off the ground and away from the mob. Best way to do that was a simple substitution. Once away from the mob, he crouched real low, and pulled out a kunai, all while smiling. "Let me teach you a little lesson in taijutsu," said Naruto. Sasuke had found many Chunin and Jonin walking, and all told them about Naruto, only to be met with laughs and had received many remarks. For example, "He deserved it. Yeah, beat him up real good." "Where? I'ma get in on the action too." He knew better than anyone the sheer depth of this problem, but it seemed almost as if Sasuke was the only one thinking right, and Naruto became indifferent to his own problem. Sasuke clutched his shirt, and kneeled in despair. "Am I still that weak? Naruto is over there and getting thrashed by all those people, yet I can't even help? I thought I could at least fix this. I can't give up, I have to save him." Sasuke checked his utility pouch, 4 kunai, and 5 shuriken, not nearly enough to fight them all. "I can't hesitate, but what can I do? I know, Iruka-sensei." Sasuke turned and made a break for Iruka's home. "I'm coming to help, Naruto." As he raced against time, he wondered, why did he want to help him so much? He could leave him alone, and nobody would think bad of him. What was it about him? Did he feel indebted to Naruto for helping him out of the forest? No, something like that couldn't be the reason to try so hard. Did he see himself in him? He did. Ever since his clan was killed, he felt unexplainable amounts of anguish and loneliness. And in his frenzy for revenge, he never gave it a second thought, but he was alone and sad. If one person could be this depressed and vengeful, and become like Sasuke, what about Naruto? Constant victim of numerous hate crimes, and constantly prejudiced. No one he could consider family nor friends. Sasuke was still part of the Leaf, but Naruto was alienated and shunned. Just how lonely could someone like Naruto feel? And on top of that, Sasuke was vengeful because his family was killed by his older brother, and he was betrayed by the person whom he looked up to. Yet Naruto was constantly being betrayed, called a monster and beaten by the very people he trusts. He always shouts, "I'll become the Hokage" during class, a shine in his eyes full of determination. How does he not want to take revenge for the people who hurt him without reason? Why does he wish to protect those who hate him? How does he suppress his rage, and continue living normally? Sasuke's pain can't hold a candle to Naruto's, yet he became an antisocial, emo, jerk. Yet Naruto was social, didn't have extremely bad manners despite his loud voice, and was, rather, a fun guy to be around. Sasuke reached Iruka's home, and hoped he wasn't in on this as well. Hesitantly, he knocked on the door. And working 40 seconds, Iruka came out. Oh. Sasuke, what do you need? Naruto. He's getting beat up. Help, said Sasuke out of breath. Iruka was now concerned. He rather disliked Naruto, but still had a functional sense of justice, and beating him up was not right. Where? In front of his house. The shabby apartment complex in the red light district. Iruka nodded and ran in that direction, Sasuke right behind him. The third Hokage was notified of academy student running around asking for help, and at the time, he was uninterested, but then was told it was the last Uchiha, asking for help to save his own godson, Naruto. The Konoha Jonins were out on missions or recovering in the hospital, and his Anbu informer said that many of the Chunin and Jonin were not of any assistance. They are all corrupted, he said. Corrupted? Bring me my crystal ball. In a flash, was a crystal ball sitting on a purple pillow on his table. He poured chakra into it, and identified the mob that was attempting to attack Naruto, but what he truly saw was far worse. He saw a monster. There he was, his own godson, standing on a pile of 20 to 30 bodies. His eyes were scary, vicious, and monstrous, and deep inside, they bubbled with a most sinister mix of bloodlust and rage. He had a red kunai in his hand, and his clothes, pristine and spotless. Naruto knew what he was doing, he had killed them and was aware of it. And he cut in places where the blood was the least, and managed to come out of this with only a red kunai. Even the third Hokage would have crimson-stained clothes fighting them. It was unsettling to say the least. He gave him a cold aura, one he could feel through the crystal ball. And for some reason, all the third could think about was how much he looked like a wetted and honed Anbu, the ideal vision one gets when thinking about Konoha's elite force of shinobi. And yet, to some extent, it was refreshing. The third always knew about Naruto's beatings. He had a copy of every hospital bill Naruto received. And he always speculated why he was fine mentally, why was his anger so freakishly under control? How does a childhood like his affect his personality so minuscule? Yet now that he snapped and his rage was flowing loose, even if it was in the form of mass genocide, the Hokage was relieved. Naruto was still a normal kid somewhere under all those smiles, or even this ruthless killer personality. Hiruzen was about to leave, when Naruto's head snapped toward Hiruzen, his eyes even more monstrous than before. Shocked, the Hokage jumped out of his seat, and subconsciously got into a fighting stance. Naruto's eyes were locked onto Hiruzen through the crystal. He couldn't have known I was watching? Right? Naruto was finished with his genocide spree, yet he felt an insatiable anger. It wasn't coming from him, but rather from Ayan, and since they shared the same body, Naruto couldn't help feel the same. Plus, Naruto was always merciless, and was rather quick to accumulate anger. Paired with Ayan's developed anger, Naruto became more than angry. He was livid. He stood on the pile of corpses, bathed in the situation. The moonlight shining down on them as a witness to his cruelty. Suddenly, he senses a chakra signature above. Not necessarily angry, but still in the process of calming down, he couldn't help but look at it with his insatiable killer intent. Within moments, the signature disappeared. Hiruzen turned the crystal off, fearing for his own safety. He then stared at the moon in awe. The sky was simply beautiful, especially to one who came from constant darkness. Suddenly, two presences revealed themselves, and Naruto looked at them. Of course, his anger still flowing over and not fully calming down, he again couldn't help but look at them with an overwhelming amount of killer intent. His hand soaked in blood, and the pile of bodies he used as a pedestal, only added more to the effect. The two none other than Iruka and Sasuke. And both of them were terrified to the bone. For Sasuke, not even Itachi was this fearful, but moreover, Naruto resembled a wicked beast more than any embellished rumor ever could. Sasuke understood to some extent, albeit incorrectly, why Naruto was a monster. To think, this was the same man who bought overpriced spoiled milk from a rotten salesman without a single complaint a few minutes ago. Iruka was just as frightened. All he noticed was the unrealistic amount of seething rage that he only felt once before in his life. The day of the Kyuubi attack. Iruka knew more than to hurt his own student, and he even knew that Naruto was the Jinchuriki of the most feared beast of all, but this rage wasn't the Kyuubi's. Iruka would know Kyuubi's presence when he saw it, but Naruto was not Kyuubi, he was still in control. That meant this rage was coming from within himself. And the last time somebody with that much rage, coupled with insane power, entered the village, the fourth Hokage died. Naruto took a few deep breaths, now realizing his need to explain himself. He stayed motionless, as his eyes continued to intimidate them. Naruto knew he had to calm down before talking to them, otherwise he would only frighten them more. He closed his eyes and took a very deep breath. After cracking his knuckles in the most unintimidating manner ever, he decided to first sigh. Then he jumped off the pile, and walked towards Sasuke and Iruka, cleaning his kunai with a towel he found on a corpse. "Well," Naruto said, and decided to make his tone even nicer, "sorry you had to see that." Naruto's eyes were no longer freakish, and his body language was calm and friendly. Not a single trace of the Naruto they saw before. Sasuke recognized Naruto as the one he saw in the forest, the kind one who helped him get back to class when he was injured. Naruto then proceeded to talk. "Well, I can't really call this a misunderstanding, everything you see here is exactly what happened. I guess I could call it self-defense, but I doubt what I did can be considered self-defense, even if they attacked first. All I can say is, I won't ever do something like this without reason. And I'll never raise my weapon against someone a demon ally. And even if you can't see me without remembering this scene, and that completely changes me in your eyes, I just want you to know that I feel they deserved it. I had been beaten, abused, called names, and even on the brink of death because of people like them. I managed to hold off my rage and let it stay inside me, without ever hurting anyone, but today, unfortunately, was my limit. I hope you can please forget about this incident for better or worse. Finished Naruto, bowing. He turned to leave, when Sasuke grabbed his collar. You still owe me dinner, idiot. Naruto was shocked but happy. And Sasuke didn't know why, but he no longer felt scared. If anything, he was as relieved as Hiruzen. Naruto was an ordinary kid, with a few, mysteriously powerful, skills, but an equally amazing heart. Instant ramen fine? Good enough I guess, cheapo. Shut up. Iruka was about to say a word, when an Anbu officer appeared in front of him. The third Hokage wishes for you. Iruka was nervous. He only saw the Hokage during mission briefings or during his speeches, but never held a conversation. Iruka, High Chunin Shinobi, academy teacher for 5 years, orphan and victim of the Kyuubi attack. That about correct? Ah yeah. You saw Naruto right? Yes. Hiruzen sighed. Did you notice anything about the corpses? About Naruto? The corpses? Yes. Didn't you find it weird? Naruto was clean, his clothes spotless, only his kunai and hands soaked in blood? Yet all those bodies were pouring blood out of them? That is weird. Bring out a few corpses you salvaged. Hiruzen spoke, and an Anbu appeared with a storage seal. A table please. And there was one in front of his Iruka. Hiruzen unsealed a corpse onto the table and Iruka scanned it thoroughly. These cuts. You noticed it now too? These are precise. They hit only vitals, with minimal blood, and the cuts were quick, flawless. For comparison, look at the corpses we salvaged from a mission carried out by a Chunin squad. He unsealed another body onto the table. These cuts. They seem shabby in comparison. They looked hurried and stressed almost. Hiruzen nodded, indicating Iruka to keep talking. The victim looked like it lost a lot of blood before dying. And there was a large struggle between them before he died. This was carried out by Kakashi when he was a Chunin. They say he was the best Chunin at the time. Now look at this corpse that Jonin killed. Hiruzen put another corpse on the table. These cuts aren't as precise, but they hold a lot of practice within them. Lots of bruising before the fatal strike, meaning a big struggle. The battle seemed clean in the sense nothing was especially sloppy, but it was still not as clean as Naruto's corpse. Hiruzen nodded in approval, impressed by Iruka's eye and scanning corpses. Last but not least, this was a corpse from an Anbu mission. The corpse was assassinated and the victim never knew. Assassination? Meaning the Anbu had plenty of time to finish the kill, plus he was practically unrivaled. Assuming we only take in aspects of the kill itself, and not stealthiness or technique, I can assume the corpse was attacked on the vital, and perfect. Hiruzen was truly impressed. And finally unsealed the body. These cuts are nearly identical. You can tell the styles are different, and different people did it. But the attack was clean and unstressed at all. Iruka stared at the corpse between Naruto and Anbu. And realized something. This Anbu was only attacking him right, that too unnoticed and without stress of time? Correct. And Naruto was being attacked by at least 30, where time is of the essence and a single misstep could cost him, correct? Yes. Iruka's eyes widened in shock. And Hiruzen gave Iruka the last piece of information. Most of those corpses were high Chunin or nearly low Jonin. Some were Jonin or civilians, but out 46 total corpses, 34 of which were high Chunin. You understand what I'm getting at, right? It need not be stated what Hiruzen was implying, but he said it anyway. Naruto was calm and tactical. He knew full well what he was doing, how to do it, and then perfectly executed it. He essentially pulled 46 perfect assassinations without time on his side, nor the benefits of being hidden, along with stress of being upmatched against such a high number of people. Only using a single kunai, no jutsu, all while intentionally keeping his clothes spotless. Iruka. Most of our most valued Anbu members can't pull off something like this as perfectly as Naruto. But he's only 10. That's right, I've kept watch over Naruto for most of his life without him even realizing, yet not once did he show skills above Jonin level. Yet he pulled off an Anbu level feat, and even noticed my presence through the crystal ball. I was wondering if you ever got signs of hidden power from Naruto? No, not once, Hokage-sama. I'm shocked as well. Not in my wildest dreams had I imagined Naruto capable of doing this. Hiruzen lit his pipe and took a deep puff. There was only one person who could train Naruto right under his nose all the way to Anbu level, and keep it hidden from him flawlessly. Danzo. You idiot, you brewed up a monster, didn't you? Chapter 3. It was a day after the test, 2 days and a night after the massacre. The civilians of Konoha were quick to find out that 40 or so people just disappeared within a single night. Panic swept the streets. The Hokage was quick to answer. He claimed they were moles for Orochimaru, and exterminated by the elite Anbu. Since most of the missing people were part of many delinquent gangs, it was believable enough that chapter of Naruto's new life was closed, but it was evident just how much of his power carried over to this new world. Not like he was going to show it at all. 20+ years of being a high-priority criminal does a lot to anybody. Although the best part about being a high-priority criminal means you can still be expected to maintain some kind of living standard, and not resort to petty crime to live on, all while being free from the laws, but it does mean that whenever one goes out in the open, a very high level of stealth and carefulness must always be maintained, as per rule number 4, dictated by the classic book, A Criminal, The Guidelines for Masterful Anonymity, written by Naruto himself in his days as a criminal. Rule number 4, to maintain anonymity, as per definition, one must be indistinguishable. But the easiest way to do so, is to simply limit any show of power. By lowering oneself to the level of a powerless weakling, most gazes simply ignore oneself. Any strength displayed, regardless of location, time, or circumstances, will be the equivalent of a beacon revealing yourself. As such, Naruto passed the academy test with barely passing grades, a 62 out of 100, where 60 was passing. Second worst scorer received a 84 out of 100. Sasuke, the highest scorer, received a 99 and Kiba received a 98. Since the Hokage was busy doing paperwork for the deaths of over 40 people, the Jonan squads have not been made, and hence the now recently made Jonan received a holiday until further notice. When Naruto reached Jonan for the first time, he was automatically put in the battlefield, and forced to fight as a meat shield against people at high Chunin level and greater. Most of his friends didn't make it past a week. Most of the Jonan in his class were killed after a month. And after 2 months, Naruto was the only surviving Jonan in his entire class. All in all, a holiday was unexpected, yet a new experience for him to enjoy. Naruto expected about a week of free time. On day 1 out of 7, Naruto decided to fix up many of the problems in his lifestyle currently. Blunt kunai, lopsided shuriken, no ninja wire, no explosive tags and ceiling tags, a utility pouch with a hole in it. Sigh. What a sad arsenal of equipment. Ian started raging inside his mind. Wonderful white noise, by the way. Deciding that today's agenda would be to refurbish his equipment, Naruto got to work. He wandered around the streets, and found the weaponry store. He walked inside and found a girl a little older than him, 2 buns of hair on her head, a kunai spinning in her hand like it was second nature. She noticed the blonde, and immediately recognized that scratchless, polished headband that adorned his head. "You must be one of the new graduates," she said in an excited voice. The kunai in her hand stopped spinning and was now pointed at Naruto. So, hopes glittering, dreams vivid, confidence rising, the graduate steps into the weapon shop, looking for a weapon that can lead them through his long and perilous journey. They stare at themselves in the mirror, posing with all the weapons, and leave with the weapon they find the coolest. Fortunately for me, I can use literally any weapon I get my hands on. What about you? Not in the mood to entertain her fantasies, Naruto got straight to the point. 30 kunai, steel alloy, 5.5-inch blade. 50 shuriken, 4-pointed, steel alloy, 1.5-inch blades each. 400 feet ninja wire, in 4 parts, 100 feet each. 20 explosive tags and ceiling tags, and 2 utility pouches, please. Naruto calculated the prices, and it came out to just barely below his entire money reserves. He would have to hunt his dinner tonight. Tenten was rather flustered at the clear and concise order, as well the lack of curiosity in the weapons around him. Flustered enough to make sure one more time. "You sure you aren't interested in one of these sorts?" Tenten said, pointing to the sword section. "We got a Zweihander here. And to its left a Flamberge. The snake-like blade really helps when piercing and stabbing and sliding. Below it is a kukri and a billhook. On the other side there, we have chakrams, shadow shuriken, tomahawks, and throwing knives. There we have a trident, a scythe, a dual-ended scythe, a pike, a staff. You don't want any of them?" After a glance, Naruto shook his head. Further flustering Tenten. "Why though?" Tenten asked. She was really curious as to why this newbie had no interest in the weapons. This newbie simply wasn't interested. He has mastered every weapon in the shop there, and fought hundreds of people using them. He knows their insides and outs, but eventually he realized a very simple enlightenment, and that was, a kunai and shuriken are possibly the best weapon a shinobi could have. Lightweight, expendable, maneuverable, reliable, aerodynamic, sturdy, comfortable, storable, ergonomic, defensive, offensive, long range, mid-range, close range, fusible, tactical, and above all, deadly, kunai and shuriken. When you think about it like that, any other weapon suddenly becomes a compromise not in your favor. For now, Naruto suddenly felt like he wanted to play along with her fantasies. I can use them all, and I ended up just preferring kunai. To be fair though, Naruto loved a nice, longer than usual, tanto, but he needed to become a bit more stronger on his ninjutsu side before he felt comfortable enough to be using a tanto. Tenten was amused. I like a simple guy like you, who can appreciate the quality of kunai. But it really ticks me off that you claim that you can use them all. Her smile slowly faded into a frown. Duel me, she said after a pause. No. Duel me, I insist. I refuse. Fight me, you arrogant newbie. Naruto paused for a bit and reveled in the irony. I decline, you ignorant fool. Criminals also never back down from a word game. Tenten lost it. Grabbing a longsword from the rack, he charged at Naruto. Immediately, when in range, she let go of one of her hands and the hand still on the weapon thrusted forward. Cling. Her jab was parried by a kunai. Putting her hand back on the weapon, she jumped back and brought the sword upwards diagonally and took a big leap forward, while swinging down diagonally. Naruto dodged, but Tenten expected it, bringing the sword forward while drawing it up into a reverse crescent swing. A crescent swing is wheel the blade swings in a curved motion, where the tip goes from up to down. A reverse crescent is when the tip starts down, then goes up. This only works for double-edged blades, like a longsword. Naruto was shocked that a kid knew how to maneuver the weapon like that, since usually genins resort to an attack and reset battle style, where one swing is down, and if it fails, they position the blade for another swing, hence creating intervals when the weapon is not attacking. What Tenten just did was connect two swings, following a connected motion battle style. It usually leaves no interval between strikes, but extensive control and forethought is required. Naruto blocked, and slid the blunt part of his kunai across the blade of the longsword, severely blunting the weapon and making it lose its balance. Naruto stepped forward and finished sliding the kunai across the edge, and got to the hilt. Now that the distance between the two were less than a foot, Naruto shifted the kunai for the sharp part of the blade to be touching the width of the sword, and with a push, snapped the blade of the longsword off the handle. The young weapon master widened her eyes at how easily the blade snapped, that too from a kunai. But defeat was not an acceptable answer. She immediately picked up a spear from the rack near her and jabbed forward in an obvious way. Naruto realized that Tenten was attempting to premeditate the flow of battle. For a shinobi, allowing the opponent to control the flow of battle was equivalent to losing the battle already. He jumped up in response, contrasting to the sidestep which was the obvious answer. The spear tip passed safely below him, and Naruto landed on the staff of the spear, his added weight making Tenten stumble forward. Naruto ran forward on the spear, gaining distance, then jumped to the side in a mid-air cartwheel, slashing the spear. Unfortunately, his reach was still small as compared to his experience in a full adult body, so the weapon wasn't fully cut through, but there was a deep slash in the spear. Tenten realized that any weight on the spear would cause it to snap. So she switched it out for a kunai. Well, your skills with a kunai are well proven. But can you deal with another kunai? A smirk grew on Tenten's lips, clear evidence that a kunai was her speciality as well. Let's see, Naruto said, and rushed forward, his kunai in a reverse grip, in front of him, his other hand trailing behind him as he ran. He lowered his dashing speed significantly, as much as he could actually, but Tenten was still clearly surprised at the velocity of the rush. After a moment, the kunai made contact, and Tenten held her ground, though the evident shaking in her arms told Naruto she was using all her strength to repel his attack. This kid's strength is insane, she thought. The standoff continued and finally Tenten gave up and jumped back. No you don't, thought Naruto, leaping forward at the same time as Tenten, causing her to have no time to regain her strength as the standoff continued. Now, Naruto suddenly pulled back his onslaught, and in a full swing, swung at Tenten's kunai. She was pushed back, and brought to her knees but she held on. Naruto however wasn't gonna give it up, and immediately swung again, pushing Tenten back as her kunai flew out of her hands, landing somewhere on the other side of the store. I admit, kunais are your strong point. Same to you, Miss Tenten. I'm Tenten, Miss Tenten. Naruto finally put his kunai on a rack in his store and helped Tenten back onto her feet. Sorry about the two weapons I broke. It's fine, for a good battle, I'll handle it, plus you get your order for free. No one has beaten me in a weapons battle before, so I officially make you my arch nemesis. Understand? Sure, if you got a decade or two to train yourself to my level. Naruto boasted, a smile on his face. After a minute or two, Naruto was out of the shop, a new utility pouch filled with fresh equipment on his hips and a backup one in the bag on his hand. Putting it inside a seal, Naruto made his way to the next place he wanted to go. Training Ground 44, where he hoped to master, or rather remaster, his skills in the smaller body. He also hoped that he could absorb some of the demonic energy stored inside the monsters. Tenten picked up the broken tools, and noticed that Naruto left his kunai in the store, and picked it up. She barely touched it and realized something was wrong. It felt improper in her hand, like it was missing something. Huh? She examined it closely. This kunai was disbalanced the whole time? And blunt? I friggin' lost to a child with a defective kunai? A shout echoed from inside the weapon shop. Imagine what the Gaki could do if he got a real weapon. An evil smile plastered on her lips, her eyes glittering and unfocused. Clearly her imagination was getting out of control. By theory, activation was done in a room called an Akuma no Heya, a room filled with extremely potent demonic energy. Enough energy to kill an army thousands of times over and over. One must sit and absorb this energy for a week. There are conditions. No water, food, sleep, rest, and breath. Yes, you have to hold your breath for a week, although artificial oxygen made by chakra is allowed. No sound must be made, no movement must be made. No thoughts must be formed. Not passing any of these conditions will cause the demonic ki in your body to explode and shuts down your heart, brain and lungs, since the Akuma no Heya acts as aggravator and producer, causing the usually dormant demonic ki to act erratically and frantically, causing it to become increasingly powerful. If all these conditions are upheld, then the demonic energy that one spent a week absorbing, will transform into a form of chakra, forming a black chakra coil next to your blue one. This chakra coil is as big as the amount of demonic ki you absorbed, and is perhaps more dangerous than the test itself, since the body might burst internally from the sudden surge in power. But, this chakra is compatible with the three forbidden styles, Shiijutsu, Kirijutsu, and Ansatsu Jutsu. But there was a reason Naruto wanted to quickly store up as much demonic ki as possible. In Ansatsu Jutsu, a very special and advanced technique called mind dominance was used to control the victim, search their memories, and even destroy/implant certain thoughts or events in their head. Meaning it was a perfect tool for infiltration, information tracking, and even puppeting, assuming one could insert a year or two's worth of memories in his head where he was devout to a single person, often oneself. He was a puppet for him who would follow his orders. But, a bug in this style if you will, you can also obtain memories of the victim's training, meaning you can grow exponentially faster. Although your body does not have the skills to implement it, your mind can guide the body accurately and precisely, at least to the level of the victim. Wait, quick review. Naruto's physical capabilities carried over, including his martial arts, fighting techniques, and movement-based skills, but unfortunately, his jutsus and chakra-based skills were abandoned. But in the words of Tsuneizu, unless a skill is physical, and practically muscle memory, can the skills be carried over. Since his ki and aura carried over, two purely spiritual and non-physical attributes, only when Naruto killed the 40 people attacking him, not before, the same thing could happen to his chakra. And since some kind of requirement is required to do this, a requirement still unknown, when the requirement's passed, it will kickstart his latent chakra skills. Tsuneizu, who was listening to this logic, chimed in. Going by recent events, this body already had impressive physical capabilities, so the requirement to gain your physical prowess might have been something simple enough that just moving was enough to pass it. When you were being attacked by the mob, this body's massive innate hatred fueled by your intolerance to danger passed the requirement to release your spiritual pressure, but this body's chakra is a mess. Absolute trash. Ian cried for 2 minutes. So it is only natural that passing the requirement for using your chakra might be several times harder than it was for the other two. Another thing to mention is that your three forbidden techniques, Shiijutsu, Kirijutsu, and Ansatsu Jutsu, are chakra-based indeed, but operate on a physical, chakral, and spiritual level, making them an anomaly impossible to carry over. Eventually, he got to the fence in front of the Forest of Death, Training Ground 44. He jumped over the fence, no problem, and managed to get about half a kilometer into the forest. He eventually found a small clearing and sat in its center, in a lotus position. Then he closed his eyes and flared out his chakra. He was actually attempting a sonar pulse, but since his control was too weak and his reserve so big, it just bursted out. Goddamn. Attempt number 2 to successfully use a satisfactory sonar pulse. Failed. Attempt number 3 to successfully use a satisfactory sonar pulse. Failed. Attempt number 8 to successfully use a satisfactory sonar pulse. Failed. Attempt number 15 to successfully use a satisfactory sonar pulse. Failed. Attempt number 64 to successfully use a satisfactory sonar pulse. Failed. He sat the whole day doing nothing but attempting a sonar pulse. Attempt number 12,256 to successfully use a satisfactory sonar pulse. Successful. Alright. Elated beyond belief, Naruto did it again. still successful. And again until he was convinced he got it down. It was a little after sunset and Naruto was confident in his taijutsu, so he went hunting. He used his sonar and found a large caterpillar monster the size of a tree. Using his knowledge and wisdom as a monster hunter, he knew caterpillar monsters like these live in groups of 5 to 12, often which only up to 2 at a time come above ground for eating. He shot a sonar pulse down and found another 7 caterpillars. Total 8 caterpillars. Naruto brought out his kunai and rushed forward, 1/4 of his total speed since it wasn't that far, and used silent step to silence his running. His sonar pulse was detected by the caterpillars and he knew it as well, but remember what he did? Attempt number 12,256 to successfully use a satisfactory sonar pulse. Successful. Satisfaction for this Naruto is equivalent to mastery of the technique and some. And hence, even if the monsters noticed, it probably came off as nothing important. Within 20 seconds, he covered around 1/4 of a mile and stopped within 15 meters of the caterpillar. He raised his kunai and silently jumped onto a tree branch. Making no movements faster than a sloth's, he slowly shifted his hand into kunai throwing position. Wait for it. Wait for it. The caterpillar turned away from Naruto, so that he could go back underground. Of course it was the best time to hunt it down, but Naruto needed to first absorb its demonic ki, and let it lead Naruto to the hive opening, where the other 7 were resting. The caterpillar spoke, before using his tail to offset some dirt, revealing a hole. Hive spoke of a caterpillar from inside the hole and the caterpillar up top jumped in. Now, Naruto threw his kunai as the caterpillar was midair in his jump inside the underground hole, and embedded itself inside a chunk of flesh between the opening of the caterpillar's scales. Kaag spoke the caterpillar and rolled to the side, the force of the kunai powerful enough to adjust the trajectory of the caterpillar's jump and making it miss its hole. Before it dies, store its demonic ki. Naruto spoke aloud, and jumped downward and landed right in front of the dying beast. Where is his chakra core? Naruto ran his hand along its body, and eventually found a surge of demonic ki, a sickly, gruesome sort of feeling he would never miss. The caterpillar's tail curved, a sign that it was stiffening up due to losing its life. I don't have much time, Naruto thought, and decided to just go for it. He cocked his hand back, finger pointed forward, and plunged his hand past the armor and flesh of the caterpillar, and found an orb of his beloved demonic ki the size of a pea. In comparison, he needed about the equivalent of 2 Earths and a moon of demonic ki for a weak activation, meaning he doesn't have a lot of black chakra but at least a chakra core. Looks like I need to hunt bigger. Let's at least take what we can get. Naruto crushed the pea of demonic ki and absorbed it into his belly next to Kurama, where it lay dormant until he found the Akuma no Heya. Immediately after, 2 caterpillars came above ground and hissed at Naruto. Shit. Wait, no, I can handle them. Stay calm, Naruto. He stood up and shifted into a stance, his kunai back in his left hand in the forward grip. Come at me. They obliged, rushing at Naruto with speed far exceeding their size. The one on the right got ahead and younged at Naruto, who ducked below the jump, while impaling his kunai inside the beast, successfully piercing the skin and many muscles. Not forgetting the second caterpillar, Naruto stood up and prematurely pulled out his kunai, as the caterpillar lay behind him in a pool of green blood, and then flickered back about 15 feet. The second caterpillar quickly changed direction and rushed, now making sure not to expose its underbelly to Naruto. The blonde leaned forward, and when the caterpillar got close, he grabbed its head and killed the momentum. He increased his grip strength and put his left foot forward while pulling his shoulders back. Without much effort, Naruto lifted the monster and flipped him over his head. Now behind the blonde, upside down and underbelly showing, the caterpillar was vulnerable. Naruto immediately reached into its belly and absorbed its demonic ki, then single-handedly ripped its head off with pure brute strength. Rest in peace. He repeated it to the other caterpillar, and like so, slowly baited all the caterpillars in the ground and absorbed their DKI, demonic ki. After an hour of running around and sonar pulsing, killing all the small fry in the forest, and resting, Naruto felt comfortable enough to go deeper into the forest and start hunting seriously. A grin formed on his face, and suddenly his clothes covered in monster blood no longer felt like the most ominous part of his appearance. His blue eyes now a deep crimson red. Not because of Kurama, don't get me wrong. Kurama had no influence on Naruto's body as of right now except for the whiskers. His red eyes were simply the fruit of his insanely potent bloodlust and overall excitement for action. Even his hair started to float a bit, and his clothing fluttered wildly despite lack of wind. The spiritual pressure that Naruto could exert was so intense it could even affect the physical realm. A pressure that could by itself kill. Welcome to hell, fellas. Let the hunt begin. The now excited blonde raced full speed, his steps leaving footprints in trees and his motions causing gales of wind. 1 pulse, nothing. 2 pulses, nothing. Third pulse, a beast lion, not powerful enough for Naruto to care. Fourth pulse, a titanium ape. A worthy opponent, but Naruto was aiming higher. Fifth pulse, nothing. Sixth pulse, velvet cobra. Perfect. Velvet cobra, a 40 to 200 meter cobra with velvet scales, and light indigo underbelly, as well as a crimson skin. With a diameter between 1 to 4 meters, and a crushing strength far exceeding 14 tons, if a cobra wraps around you, it is impossible to escape. Heavily territorial and insanely aggressive. Poisonous fangs, and 4 eyes, and a single pitch-black horn, known to be one of the strongest materials naturally made, second to diamond. An infant has no horn and its 2 eyes are closed. An old, about to die, velvet cobra often has a broken horn and cloudy eyes. The real reason a velvet cobra is known for its insane strength is its ability to be able to use chakra, as well as having a chakra coil and a developed chakra pathway. Hence, it can also substitute and clone. Some of the more advanced velvet cobras can even use shadow clones and basic fire-style jutsus. It can travel at speed averaging at 70 to 90 miles per hour and reflex far exceeding most jounins. Its hide and horn are equivalent to spoils of war, and a sign of strength. Why it was in the forest was beyond Naruto, but it wouldn't be for much longer. Naruto Uzumaki Tsunizu, a 10-year-old child, standing at 4 feet 11 inches. He grew a little bit since Naruto's physical capabilities that carried over gave him some height. He still is growing in fact, and a mental age of 42. He can reach speed up till Mach 3, but only for 20 to 30 minutes. He considers 120 miles per hour his full speed, which he can maintain for greater than a week. A grip strength of 12 tons, pushing strength of 26 tons, and pulling strength of 23 tons per hand. He can easily lift most things in the world with just a tug. Although Naruto still can't use his chakra coils properly, the velvet cobra has a one-up there. A moment passed and they were staring at each, their fangs bared and ready to pounce. Any sound, or movement would trigger a bloody beatdown. Suddenly, a random frog stepped on a twig, and the 2 beasts disappeared. Sounds of slashing and piercing echoed throughout the forest. The 2 were running alongside each other, trying to gain some distance over the other so that they could launch an attack. The high-speed pursuit slowed down ever so slightly, and Naruto jumped up, just in time to avoid a tail whip from the snake, who arched his body to the left to avoid a kunai slashing down from the mid-air Naruto. The 2 clashed, constantly overcoming each other's attacks while countering with their own. Naruto in his past life could have killed something like this in a split second, using his Ansatsu Jutsu. It had been about 40 seconds, and battle ensued. Now, 40 seconds might not be long, but as the strength of the opponent and yourself grows, the shorter the time of each battle. At certain levels, the battle was decided within the first move. Hence, at the level where Naruto and the Cobra stand, 40 seconds was far too long. It was a rare phenomenon, when 2 enemies are so perfectly contradictory, or so perfectly similar, that their actions are negated in an endless cycle. Gotta pump it up, I guess, thought Naruto. Before we move on, let's make it clear, a velvet cobra is easy for the current Naruto to beat. He wore capes made out of their hide and tantos made out of their teeth. When he was a criminal, animals like these were no more than games. And now, he simply wishes to rebuild his fundamentals, and possibly get used to this body. Hence, he had to cut off a lot of his skills, and use only basic maneuvers and martial arts. And not Naruto's kind of basic, but literally, Genin-level fighting skills. But unfortunately even Naruto's impression of Genin was relatively high. Here goes nothing. The redness in his eyes grew brighter and now let out a light sheen. The velvet cobra hissed, and summoned his chakra to the horn on his forehead. A fireball slowly grew at its tip. I refuse, Naruto spoke, and the fireball disappeared. Instead, there was a hand, and a mystifying darkness atop the cobra's head. From the darkness emerged Naruto, and the one on the ground turned to dust and flew away with the wind. Dual appliance. Image creating step X instant shadow. Image creating step creates an afterimage of yourself that can be sustained for as long as you can maintain it. It involves taking a step, then jumping back to the original position, then taking 2 steps, then jumping back, then 3, and back, and 4 and back, and so on until you get where you need to be without dropping the afterimage. And instant shadow basically allows your muscles to flex in certain, inhumane ways, to shroud yourself in shadow no matter where you are. These 2 skills are Naruto abilities, along with about 28 others that he calls the Tai Ninjutsu, since one replicates ninjutsu-like abilities and plays tricks on the eyes with just sheer physical ability. The premature, now dead fireball from the serpent Wo smoked inside Naruto's hand. Sure, it's singed, but nothing he wouldn't recover from in a few minutes. His other hand punched the top of the cobra's head, and then punched it again with the same force, for good measure. He slid off from the side, making sure to drag a kunai along his flesh as he did, and upon touching the ground, continued running alongside the length of Cobra, the kunai still slicing through its flesh. When Naruto got to the center of Cobra, he pushed his kunai deep inside, and carved out flesh. Eventually he saw a DKI orb the size of 3 basketballs. Without a second thought, he plunged his hand inside and broke the orb, absorbing it through his pores and storing it where the rest of his DKI was resting. The Velvet Cobra died, a futile battle it all seemed, his opponent not even harmed, the scorch marks on his hand were already gone. Yet, it was the best battle he had in his life, even his fellow Velvet Cobras couldn't compare. "Thank you, blonde shonen." His words sounded like a weak hiss, but Naruto understood and bowed deeply. Rest in peace. Chapter 4, Anko, an eccentric jounin in the Hidden Leaf Village, often preening herself as the caretaker of the Forest of Death. She trains, eats, and sleeps in the forest. While she does occasionally go back to her residence, a comfy and homely house, she doesn't find it appealing at all. Nothing beats sleeping 20 meters in the air, on a cold, hard, swaying branch that could snap from your weight at any given moment, surrounded by monsters out for your blood. Recently in the past 3 days, she kept finding the corpses of various monsters, each one carefully pierced open near the guts and signs of a hand pulling something out of them. She even found a dead velvet cobra. There were also signs of a hand impaling near the guts and pulling something out of it. The horn was broken off and most of its velvet scales skinned off, meaning whoever killed it had enough knowledge to know just how valuable the hide and horn of the cobra are. Luckily, the fact that the corpse was an effing velvet cobra genuinely helps narrow down the list of suspects. It was a fully mature cobra, and there were evident signs of struggle. Various slashes were in its corpse and the track marks spanned many miles. She couldn't sense residual chakra emitting from the head, meaning the mystery man who killed it had probably cut off its ability to use chakra before fighting it, or negated all of its attempts to use chakra mid-fight. This man is hella smart. Cutting off its chakra is the same as only fighting half of its power. Yet for some reason, there were no footprints, not a single trace. In fact, none of the monsters who had been killed had any footprints around. No residual chakra, scent, or trace. God damn it, this guy's a veteran. But Anko was pissed solely for the reason that she can no longer hunt as many monsters as once would have. All of them would be dead the moment she even approached them. Many times she got close to seeing the man with incredible power, often laying traps like clustering a bunch of monsters together and waiting, but he would never come, and the moment she looked away, one of them would be dead. And sometimes, he would do it right in front of her while she was looking, the two with such speed that it looked like a blur. The only thing she could make out was the streak of bright yellow hair. Everything else was lost. It had been about 4 days and the number of encounters she had with blonde beasts summed up to over 100. It was shameful, but after every encounter, he only seemed to get faster. And there were less monsters for her to hunt. In 2 or 3 days, she would be called to lead a Genin squad, and she would reject, but would be dragged by Kurenai to help her team train. So it was the same as leading a Genin team without all the formalities. That also meant she had 2 or 3 days left to catch the blonde beast. And at the rate this hunt was going, it would take years. It was day 6 of hunting the blonde beast. Both the beast and Anko had been hunting non-stop for the span of these 6 days. And Anko had used every maneuver, trap, method, and skill in her book to catch him, all ending in failure. It's like every time Anko laid a trap, the guy knew what it was, its weakness and how to get out of it, all engraved in his mind. What could she do now? She even lay in the open, wearing an extremely revealing dress, hoping to appeal to the beast's lust, but when he noticed Anko's antics, he audibly snickered and continued his hunt. While she was enraged beyond belief, she heard the beast's voice. A raspy, and childish voice, that felt mature and held depth. It was near the lower mid-range octaves, and bouncy. It was a child's, yet an adult's as well. Don't tell me. He even concealed his true voice? Naruto did in fact, not conceal his true voice. Thanks to this 6-day hunt, technically 7 for Naruto, his DKI was considerably stored up. Strong monsters and weak monsters were all slaughtered indiscriminately. In perspective, he had about 1% of his original reserves. But since it isn't an activated demon chakra that can slowly grow with meditation, and refill itself when used, the reality is more like 0.1%. This meant he could in fact hunt for 5,993 days and regain his prior abilities, but it would be a lot easier to just find the Akuma no Heya. Anyways, it was around 7:30 p.m. when Naruto got the message to meet up at the classroom at 8 a.m. tomorrow for the Genin squad placement. As expected, Naruto looked over his gear. They had grown dull and dirty, red stains adorned all of them. He had used up all his ninja wire laying elaborate traps and choking the necks of God knows how many monsters. His kunai dwindled by about half, and the remaining ones were unusable. Their blades were dull and chipped. His clothes were a mess too. While blood wasn't on him, he did slide, jump, and run along a lot of dirt. Plus he often slept in blankets made of herbs and dirt, to conceal his scent. Luckily, he had another 5 sets of the same clothes, and sandals were meant to get dirty anyway. He also had the spare utility pouch that was untouched. Nothing a quick shower couldn't fix. Sang Naruto, as he skipped to the bathroom. You seem happier these days. I guess the stress of being a criminal is no longer there, so you feel lighter and more carefree perhaps? Perhaps. As he showered, Anko Mitarashi made her way into the home of Naruto. She wasn't dumb enough to enter through the door, so she used the window. Although it was locked, using chakra, she slowly and carefully unlocked the window and slid inside. You let your guard down, blonde beast. Now, to see who you really are? She looked around, and saw a rather clean home. Ever since Sasuke went on a search inside his home, Naruto made extra sure to clean it out. He burned all items that were sensitive information, and kept his weapons inside a secret storage space inside his bed, and set up various traps in just his room, since he really didn't mind who ravaged the rest of his house. Anko finished searching the living room and kitchen, and was making her way to the bedroom, when a hand grabbed her shoulder and pulled her back. By reflex, she tried to grab the hand and judo flip whoever it was, but the man didn't budge. No, the hand was a child's. Take a step forward and brace yourself for becoming a kunai porcupine. This voice, that raspy, lower mid-octave range, bouncy voice. Blonde beast? Huh? Anko turned around, and finally saw Naruto. A child? Really? An adult? Really? Naruto mocked. She took a deep breath, and slowly analyzed the child in front of her. He just came out of the shower, so there was the scent of steam and soap, but nothing else. He only had a towel wrapped around his lower body, revealing his 8-pack abs, and a toned, but powerful body. Judging by how she couldn't even judo flip him, he probably had a strong core and understood how to manipulate one's center of gravity. If he was the blonde beast, then it wouldn't be completely out of the ballpark. Did you go hunting in the Forest of Death, Training Ground 44, and hunt every monster you saw for 6 days straight? Were you stalking me for 6 days straight, laying traps to stop me from hunting? So it was you. And hence, Anko, for the first time in her entire life, felt like the truth was a lie and all other possible lies were more believable than the truth. How old are you? 12. So you are going to be a Jonin tomorrow? Yup. You've been on a mission. Naruto hesitated, then sighed. No. You were the first in the test at least? Dead last. The rest of your classmates are stronger than you? Not at all. Anko had a general idea of the situation. This kid is insanely strong, but since being that strong would arouse suspicion, he hid his abilities and got the rank of dead last. Although how the kid became this power is still a mystery. What is your name, kid? Naruto Uzumaki Tsunezu. Tsunezu? Isn't that the legendary warrior? The next section will be a little bit of Tsunezu's history as well as his origins. It's nothing important, but if you want to skip it, scroll down to the next line, like the one above. Long ago, before Kaguya even made her entrance on Earth, humans were already dwelling and living inside caves and underground. They developed language and religion, and somehow, they knew that there would be a time where technology would advance leaps and bounds, far beyond their imagination, and named themselves the Genshi Hito, primal human, race. Their religion was called Hindaden, and they had many gods. In a series of 4 scriptures, the first was called Hajimari, or the beginning. It talked about the creation of deities and how they created life and their unique powers, while shedding light on something called the divine rule. It stated that gods cannot use their power amongst each other, nor directly interfere with their creation's actions. The next was called Kanten, or chaos. It talked about how the gods entered conflicts with each other, and split into their separate paths. They led battles against each other, using their creations as armies to fight alongside them. Eventually, the battles became a free-for-all battle, and then war. The next was called Dakusan to Buraidoman, or Dark Sun and Bright Moon. Being the longest in the scriptures, it only talked about a single battle, where they introduced the idea of gods choosing certain prophets to shed their power and thoughts to, hence bypassing the divine rule, and allowing a divine being to directly take part in the battles amongst one another. However, they also introduce a man named Tsunezu, a warrior who was not made by any god, a creation that was created by anybody. As the Dakusan to Buraidoman speculates, Tsunezu was the divine law itself, who entered the mortal realm to punish those who bypassed it. Tsunezu was human at first and did not know he was the divine law, and not a god. But he grew much faster than other humans and became exceptionally powerful. At a certain level, he inherited the divine law's full power, and while still a human, he had power compared to divinity. The gods couldn't influence Tsunezu's minds, as they did to their armies, so they sought to kill him. The first god to hunt his head, Rendetta, made the mistake of coming to him in person. Tsuneizu killed him and absorbed his powers, along with his armies. Tsuneizu set the army free of their mind's influence, and hid them away in various dimensions. The gods learnt their lesson and set up a single battleground to end it all. Trillions and quadrillions of soldiers walked this battleground that day, from millions of dimensions all around. Each one of them were slaughtered, and the only one remaining was Tsuneizu, who apparently got stronger with every kill. Unfortunately, he became so powerful that he became divine. The thing is, despite being the divine law works on any divine being, and hence, Tsuneizu self-destructed, and all his power split and formed very special races, like the Otsutsuki. The last book, named Horizon, was lost, but experts speculate that it has not been finished, or destroyed. Although, recently, a new page was discovered, and it was apparently the first page of Horizon. It only held a few words. Tsuneizu will be back. The female Jounin knew better than to jump to conclusions, and ignored it. Naruto was the first to break the silence. I have the Junon placement meeting tomorrow in the morning, please leave. It wasn't a request, it was an order. It was said in such a manner Anko felt powerless against it, and left quietly. At least he didn't attack me, God knows if I would survive. Oh, the shame. Naruto was the first to the classroom. At 6 a.m. he was sitting there and slowly developing his chakra control. He tried forming various shapes with his chakra, like ropes, or planks. Then he would slowly aim for far more intricate figures. The planks now had a texture like wood, and the ropes were weaved. Then he managed to stimulate the fibers in the rope, as well as the characteristics of wood. By this time, it had already become 7:40, and the second student walked in. It was emo brat, I mean Sasuke. He noticed Naruto and his face softened a lot. A light smile adorned his face. Good morning, Sasuke. Where were you? Huh? I came to your house like 50 times over the week, and you weren't there. Naruto knew he messed up. Obviously Sasuke would be worried, having seen Naruto's hospital papers and his overall reputation with the rest of Konoha. But he couldn't exactly say that he hunted high-class monsters for 7 days without sleep and rest while evading a Jounin. And talk about the massacre and the investigation. I was camping in the forest, and stuff. Trying to get away from the village while the investigation is going on. Naruto spoke, as he gave Aya a mental head pat for his quick thinking. Sasuke nodded, his gaze lingered downwards. But all is good now. I'm clean. A pause later, the blue-haired Uchiha sighed, and sat next to Naruto. It was 7:47, and there were a large number of loud footsteps, and the two people in the classroom could see dust clouds out of the window. The footsteps got closer, and the sounds of various squeals also became apparent. Quick, hide me Naruto. Naruto nodded, and in a hot second picked up Sasuke by the collar. Ashi! And flickered out of the classroom. The sounds of barfing was in the background as Naruto realized he subconsciously flickered inside the forest of death. Where are we? Training ground 44, huh? Let's sit out for a bit here, then I'll flicker you back. We'll be safe here, right? It is the forest of death. Oh yeah, I already killed all the monsters in this forest and some. Wasn't an answer he could just say. Yeah, the Jounin are on patrol right now. I see. Sasuke started practicing some taijutsu, and Naruto took a short nap on the tree. At 7:55, Naruto grabbed Sasuke by the collar. Wait a minute, and flickered outside the door of the classroom. The academy janitor had a little bit more work to do today. As the two walked in, Iruka was already there, proud that no one failed the meeting, even Naruto. Alright, now that we are all here, should we start? The entire classroom got on edge. Their careers as shinobi were beginning and the Jounin they got put under, would shape up how their lives would go. Their teammates would become their best friends, and people they will have to put their lives in the hands of. It wasn't a test, but far more nerve-wracking. Team 1. Your instructor is in room 3. And so the list went on. Team 7, Sasuke, and Naruto? A team of 2? Led by Kakashi Hatake. Your team leader will be meeting up with you here. The Hokage probably had a hand in this. Pairing the two most powerful new shinobi under the village's most powerful Jounin, a state where anyone else would not only disrupt the balance but bring down the capabilities of the team in general. Officially, Naruto was dead last. But the Hokage knew better, but it helped pair the two together, since officially, he wanted to boost Naruto's growth by letting him observe and take motivation from the first. The rest of the team split up, and Naruto, Sasuke, and Iruka sat in the classroom, waiting. Kakashi usually comes about 3 to 4 hours after the time, so wait for a bit. Sasuke raised his hand. Could we use the training field? Iruka nodded. And the two made their way. As they went out in the open, Sasuke turned around and asked Naruto, "Can you teach me how to fight better?" The timing was so abrupt, Naruto rejected the offer. "I see." 2 hours went by, Sasuke beat the living daylights out of a scarecrow, never once daring to ask Naruto for a spar. The blonde sat alone in the shade, meditating, continuing his training from this morning. He now made multiple planks, and increased the size of the rope. Of course, it was invisible, but Naruto could sense his chakra. He started linking plants together with the rope and made a small raft. Then he made many more small rafts, laid them on the side, and put 3 others down, forming 4 walls. The last one he put over the top, and used rope to tie them all together. "It's barely acceptable for now." Sasuke, who thought it was a compliment to his training, smiled. Naruto smiled back, deciding it was better to not tell him. The two heard footsteps and saw a white-haired ninja with a jounin vest. "Kakashi, these 2 are your students," spoke Iruka. The Cyclop ninja looked puzzled. "I was supposed to be getting 3? These 2 are more than enough." The jounin again looked confused, now with a hint of curiosity. After all, Kakashi knew that he would be getting the dead last and the number 1 rank from the Hokage's briefing, but why would just the number 1 rank be enough? Iruka read Kakashi's eye expressions, and noticed how he was eyeing Sasuke but not Naruto, and quickly caught his train of thought. He doesn't realize Naruto is the strongest Shaman here, does he? All evidence pointing to was covered up. Large chakra? Kyubi? Muscles? Hidden by clothes? Fighting skills? Not yet tested. Stress management and clutching up? Too early to make a definitive decision. Naruto still upheld the name of a dead last. That to a level far more than sheer coincidence, the blonde in front of him was consciously setting his appearance to be that of a dead last. All of his strengths had an explanation that would not point the fingers at him. Scary. "Alright then, you two. On the roof in 30 seconds. Sasuke turned and dashed, and Naruto calmly jumped out of a window. Like a lizard, Naruto scaled the building. No chakra or anything, just sheer grip strength, upper body strength and agility. Naruto was at the top of the building within 23 seconds, that too after considerably slowing down while climbing. "Seems like both of you got here in time," said Kakashi, obviously bored and uninterested. "Let's do some introductions. You, Lone Wolf Uchiha, go first." Suddenly, the somewhat emotionally stable Sasuke became gloomy and dark. His emo-ness knew no bounds. "My name is Sasuke Uchiha, I don't like." "That's enough, you. Blondie, go." "I'd rather not." "Fair enough. Meet up at Training Ground 7 tomorrow at 6 a.m. Late people will face no mercy. Oh. And don't eat breakfast." And the jounin shined away. Both Naruto and Sasuke weren't fazed. 6 a.m. was no biggie, and neither was training at such a time. But the criminal had better insight. A simple training session won't be backed by a threat of late people will have no mercy, and neither will they be asked to skip out on breakfast. It must be some test. As a superior mind, the blonde often forgets to realize Sasuke would be far too excited by the thought of training with pros, and his start to his revenge, shinobi career. Enough to not realize that it's more than just training. So, Naruto left without a word, expecting Sasuke to reach the same conclusion as him. The next day came without a hitch, and the two were waiting intently for their instructor to arrive. 3 hours later, at 9 o'clock, no one came. At 10:15, their jounin instructor came, not even greeting them, and reading his small handheld book. After a moment, in went the book and his single gaze went to both of the jounin. From the same place he stored the book came out a small clock. Judging by the model, it had an alarm function. There was a single bell on his hip, and no other visible difference from his appearance yesterday. "This clock is set to ring at 1 o'clock. Before it would be at 12 o'clock, but you guys are only a duo, so that was accounted for. See this bell on my hip?" He gave it a light tap to make a sound. "This is your goal for today, get it off my hip by 1 o'clock and you pass." The classics. Pitch your teammates against one another for the bell, or let them develop an outstanding sense of teamwork. After some more instruction, he paused and then shouted, "Start." Sasuke jumped into the bushes and Naruto remained still. Meanwhile Kakashi got out his book again, indicating he didn't take either one of them seriously. "Hey!" Naruto neither jumped nor ran, he made no visible movement, but he simply vanished. Not a blur or streak, not a trace however bleak. And Kakashi realized his mistake. "Shit. I let my guard down." The book went in and his hand protectively covered the bell. The bell? It wasn't there. And from far away, he heard a sound familiar. Jingle. And so, the test came to an end, not even 5 minutes into its start. I let my guard down. Screw it. Redo the test, I'm serious this time. Naruto threw the bell and Sasuke waddled out of his hiding spot. Leaves adorned his hair, and his jaw was agape. Clearly Naruto wasn't supposed to be able to take the bell from the Jounin, but he went and did. The Jounin however was unfazed. Naruto even briefly saw hints of pride and satisfaction in his gaze. Weird. Kakashi wasted no time. Start. And Sasuke jumped into the trees again. Naruto remained still, but this time, Kakashi was in a defensive position. No book. All things considered, it would be beneficial for Naruto to test his skills against a Hone Jounin. But let's not rush things, shall we? The vanishing act was just a warning, but irregardless of who it is, nobody should see his true skills. And he sure as hell wasn't ready to reveal them this early into his reincarnation. Let's slowly build up the intensity of the battle. First, let's attack him with the thing he was most prepared for, the vanishing technique. Then follow through with different variations. Cling. As expected, Kakashi parried his attack with his backhand protector, and counterattacked with his fist. Naruto vanished again. Now behind Kakashi. Tang. This time, a kunai blocked his own, and the two pieces of metal resonated in a high pitch. Level 2. This time, Naruto didn't vanish, but held his ground and released his kunai from the opponents, then jabbing and slashing at the vitals and ligaments, all to be blocked, parried, or diverted by the various metal sheets that adorn the Jounin's body. Vanish. Naruto unexpectedly vanished, but the slurry of attacks came from elsewhere, and Kakashi turned around to block. When he met the air. Face the wrath of a technique I used during my Greenhorn month in the wars as a fresh Shinon. Hat trick vanish. A slash to the back ligament was all it took for Naruto to realize not mess around either. A slash to the blonde zone ligament. That was. And the Kakashi in front of him popped into smoke. Aiming for my ligaments and vitals, while secretly positioning the approach of the attack in a sense that I couldn't attack back. This isn't Shinon level performance. Nevertheless, quite impressive, but child. I'm a Jounin. The slashed Naruto turned his head around, and in an awkward, eerie smile, spoke. And I'm a clone. And then the blonde went poof. A slash now appeared on Jounin's left tendon. Nani? Kakashi snapped his head around, bewildered, yet no one was nearly around him. In fact, the only one he could sense was Sasuke, and not Naruto. He just came back from a mission 2 days ago, so he knew he wasn't rusty enough to not be able to detect two Jounin. And then it all clicked. These two are more than enough. Kakashi couldn't help but grin. He didn't get the dead last and number 1 Jounin. No. He got the number 1 Jounin on the records, and then the strongest Jounin yet, off the records. Sweet mother of God, what the hell have I gotten myself into? Without another hint of doubt, he put his hand up to his Hitai-8, and slowly lifted it up. A big, 3-Tomoe Sharingan came into view. And the two Jounin watching could only think the same thing. What the? Chapter 5. The Hokage was already watching the fight between Kakashi and Naruto, and Sasuke, hoping to see things that he would have never thought possible. And then, Kakashi revealed his Sharingan, the two just for a single Greenhorn. Then again, this so-called Greenhorn already killed 40+ Chunin-level adults alone, not to mention how many he might have done in secret. I guess Kakashi realized he would have to go full out for this child. The battle was at a halt, the Jounin was still adjusting their thoughts with the new information, and Kakashi was slowly trying to calm his nerves. For Naruto, however, he has fought the Uchihas before, that 2 at a time or the 3 of them were some of the strongest people he fought. Compared to them, Kakashi was still child's play. Ah! Those were the good times. Fighting the crow arts of the Uchiha clan themselves. 3 dastardly powerful men who became almost synergistic with each other, a trio who came to be known as the Trident. Itachi and Madara Uchiha are at the forefront, and Shisui Uchiha launching powerful genjutsu from the back. Lost in thought, Kakashi pounced on an unfocused Naruto. Pay attention. But I was. In a fluid motion, Naruto tapped the side of Kakashi's extended hand, just barely adjusting the trajectory away from his head, as he leaned to the right to gain an even bigger buffer. Kakashi glided right past Naruto, but he pushed his extended hand into the ground, and using his acrobatic skills, his rooted hand as an axis of rotation, did a full 270 spin and attempted kicking the side of Naruto. Good, thought Kakashi, as his legs came within millimeters of Naruto's side. But he immediately noticed an elbow smashing into his knee, as another hand grabbed the kicking leg and held it in place. Not good. Kakashi took out his rooted hand and spun 180 degrees horizontally in such a way that his head was facing the ground and the backside of his knee would get hit, which would bend on impact, so the damage was minimal. Or that was what he wanted. The firm grip Naruto's hand had didn't even let Kakashi gain a single degree of rotation, and his elbow smashed the side of his knee, shattering it. Shit, but the attack wasn't over. No, Naruto had plans. Using his grip and sheer brute strength, Naruto flung Kakashi onto the ground, then jumped knee first as he fell. Kakashi hit the ground first. The impact caused him to bounce a little, right into Naruto's knee, which smashed Kakashi into the ground again. Broken ribs and a shattered knee were only a minuscule amount of things he broke with the two attacks. Had Kakashi used his other leg beforehand instead of attempting a spin, the chances of his knee being broken and ribs shattered would have been reduced by about 10%. But wait. There's more. Kakashi clutched his chest in pain but was promptly lifted, and hurled onto the ground again. Chest first. The same process repeated, the bounce happened and he crashed into the knee, which smashed him onto the ground again, breaking his spine. It would have been death. But Naruto knew he wouldn't die. The Kakashi he spent so much time flinging around was just a clone after all. When, before he even attacked, the real Kakashi was hunting Sasuke and hoped he could use him as a hostage. Suddenly, Sasuke heard Naruto's voice in his head. Jump. Now. Sasuke was flustered for a bit too long, as Kakashi appeared from the shadows behind Sasuke's body, and placed a kunai on his neck. They both walked out of the bushes and right in front of Naruto, who just finally popped Kakashi's clone. That's quite the sturdy clone you got there. He glanced at the kunai, and I'm assuming that's quite the sturdy grip too. No trace of emotion was on Naruto's face though, even if his voice was passively sarcastic. Damn, you pulled out a hostage situation. Would be a shame, if I cared. Hostages? Against Naruto? Anybody in his previous life who heard that would laugh at the information. Kakashi made an audible sound. Naruto explained. You don't take. Naruto crouched real low. Hostages. His hand pulled out a kunai from his pouch, against somebody. The hand visibly clutched the kunai, and his eyes looked intensely at the tip of the blade, and spoke much louder than before. Who couldn't care less? The kunai flew at Sasuke's head, faster than lightning, and more powerful than a bull horde. It struck. A body fell lifeless on the ground. What the fu? Kakashi muttered wide-eyed, but his internal safety system shouted, incoming before he could finish. A punch landed neatly on his jaw. Join or not, a dead person, suddenly killed before your eyes, would inevitably shock somebody. Kakashi might be at the top of his game, and not all that affected, but the shock was still there. The dead Sasuke puffed away from existence, and Naruto used the new shock to land another jawbreaker. Kakashi, who had thought he gained an advantage after revealing his Sharingan, was suddenly doubting himself. As if the two punches cleared his mind, he took a good look at Naruto. The way he carried himself, the way he planned out his attacks, his raw skills, his subtle aura of arrogance that he spews, everything backed up his raw power. Now that Kakashi realized his disadvantage, the only thing he could do was back up the last attack with everything he had. A large ball of chakra formed in Kakashi's right hand, and a torrent of lightning in his left. Rasengan, he shouted, as he pushed his two palms together, forming a pea-sized ball of pure lightning energy, as the occasional zap it would shoot out, while harmless, reached meters in size. That looks bad. He rushed forward, hoping to land the hit, and noticed despair creep up on Naruto's face. No, it was a look of disgust. Don't tell me this is your trump card. Disappointing. All it took was a slap, and the ball zipped off in a different direction and into the clearing of trees beside them. And a second backhand slap immediately after the first, zipped Kakashi off into the other direction. Sasuke slowly got up, a kunai stuck in his forehead, but alive. How? Well, simply put, Naruto used all of his chakra control to unleash a simple yet untraceable genjutsu. Why did Kakashi not notice with his Sharingan? 2 reasons. Naruto is Naruto, a beast of a creature who can do things people can't even dream of. The second reason, Naruto didn't use any ninjutsu for the majority of the fight. Taijutsu was the only skill he demonstrated. Kakashi lowered his guard and stopped searching for ninjutsu so that he could better focus his concentration. If he didn't use ninjutsu, what was the chance of him using genjutsu? Practically none. But Naruto's sole existence in this universe is to bend the laws of nature and common sense with sheer ability, always expecting the unexpected while still preparing to experience more unexpected shit. What good was a Jounin if his Jonin team was stronger than him? Recently, the 4 other nations, excluding the Hidden Leaf, started getting stronger and stronger. They were always nearly similar in strength, while the Fire Nation barely towers over them all in terms of average ninja ability. But now, the Fire Nation was only, in the words of the Hokage himself, dominating the shinobi world by their intimidating history and not their preparation for any inevitable future. Simply put, they were the strongest merely in name, otherwise, the shinobis of the world were practically head-to-head. But the confusing part was how this happened. 2 years ago, the Hokage had gotten a letter from a crow and secretly picked it up, anticipating a debriefing from me to one of his spies. Instead, he got a letter addressed to him beginning like this: I'm not your precious little Uchiha you've got running around for you. Did the crow throw you off? Clearly, the man had information about the Hokage's darkest secrets, including him. Anxiously he read on further. I am a shinobi of the world, a being who no longer affiliates himself with nations or beliefs like the rest of you puny mortals do. I am strength, I follow strength, I die for strength. As such, I strive to further seek my boundaries, by simply experiencing the potential strength in other candidates. Candidates? The Hokage already knew where this was going. An unnamed facility in an unnamed place led by me, an unnamed warrior. Training unnamed shinobi with unnamed techniques and unnamed methods. I only wish to see how much strength I can visualize from your candidates. Here, in this unnamed school, shinobi cannot wear or express faith or loyalty to anything but strength. Of course only till the candidates can show me their strength. You might not believe me, but your precious fourth Hokage was one of my numerous students. In his file, you notice that he took a 15-month-long mission during his Chunin times, a mission he completed within the first month, and spent the rest 14 working with me. Me, the unnamed warrior. I of course will not ask you to join the program, but if you should ever decide to, and meet with a child who has even the faintest glimmer of greatness similar to that of the fourth, then please send him over. On the 1st of December every year, atop the first Hokage's head, will be a man waiting. He will stand there for 30 seconds, exactly at noon, and take whoever is with him after the 30 seconds, to me. If you attempt to subjugate this man, your village will most likely be obliterated. Again, we do not favor nations or wealth or titles, or heritage. You shall be treated as per your strength. I hope to see you. The Hokage was skeptical, but in the cage meetings, all the cage claimed to have sent their best Shin'an and Chunin to this man. Later that year, the very Shin'an they gave to the man, dominated the Chunin exams. Although no longer skeptical, the Hokage wasn't prepared to just give any Larry who got a 100% on the academy test. If he was going to give somebody this opportunity, it would be given to somebody truly exceptional. And the Hokage watched intently, one thought swimming in his head. I found him, he muttered. After around a week of D-rank missions, done as a sheer formality and for no real reason other than for the records, the Hokage exempted them from D ranks but also told them to not complete missions below B rank. The single eye that peered out of Kakashi was wide open. B rank? I know we have Naruto and me, but in this case, Sasuke becomes a dead weight. Sasuke is not as weak as you think, Hiruzen said, realizing what Kakashi was thinking. He is simply outshined by the beast of talent. It need not be said who is this beast of talent. Only one person fits this criterion. I have given Naruto some personal training time today. You, on the other hand, with Sasuke, have a little team spar with Guy's team at 1 o'clock. Just Sasuke versus the rest of his team. He started rubbing his beard gently. I'm not saying he will win, but you'll be realizing a lot of things this afternoon. The Cyclops nodded. He really hoped to be equal to both students, but Sasuke didn't seem anything great as of yet. That was the sole reason the Jounin couldn't help but anticipate something from the Hokage's words. As normal, Sasuke was waiting at training ground 7, and Kakashi quickly landed in front of him. Usually, he would be talking to Naruto, but his companion was missing, so he reverted to his revenge as my sole purpose and happiness is a lie mode. Kakashi quickly set him to work, the emo-ness of Sasuke so potent it felt like a miasma, and he couldn't bear to be around it much longer. After many hours of watching Naruto pushing around Sasuke by simple words, he got a gist of how to moderate Sasuke. He took a deep breath and attempted to flex his throat in a method that would best allow him the best results. Oi! Gaki! Get yo butt here and spar with me. Weird, very weird, but it worked. Sasuke was stretching his muscles and circulating plenty of chakras, and with a nod of approval, Kakashi did the same. Upon retrospection, Kakashi never really taught them anything, as Naruto was almost a well of information that taught itself. Hence, Kakashi's life was easier, but he always got the unnerving feeling that he was avoiding his responsibilities. Kept the sheets off him at night. Now for the first time, that feeling was gone, and Kakashi felt all better. A frog decided to step on a twig again and the battle initiated. Here's a little something about Team 7. All spars are battles. All battles will have your life on the line. Escape is never allowed. These were the unsaid rules taught by Naruto, something Kakashi felt very unsettling and sinister for a team that was supposed to be his to teach and govern. The rules were awfully Onbu-like, but perhaps more rude Onbu-ish, in the sense to maximize improvement while slimming down the crowd to only the best. It was anarchical in its own sense, yet had a romance to it. So all in all, it was most likely the reason why Sasuke was charging at Kakashi with both his single Tomoe Sharingan out blazing and a premature form of Kakashi's Chidori. All in the first move. If he didn't, then the Jounin would kill him by the second move. He had plenty of Naruto getting awfully close to his throat and heart with a kunai to know that this team was quite cutthroat, pun intended, but much to Kakashi's pleasure, Team 7 was no longer afraid of anything. By already accepting that any battle would lead to death, it was given that one would become numb to the feeling. He slapped the wrist of the Jinan and completely launched the Chidori elsewhere, a technique he learned from when he got his ass handed to him for the first time by Naruto, and backhanded the poor Uchiha. However, to his astonishment, Sasuke grabbed the hand and forearm and bit the thumb hard, as well as using his grip to place his left foot in his armpit and right foot on his head. He looked like he was squatting horizontally using Kakashi's arm as a makeshift platform. As hard as the Jinan could, he extended his body, popping Kakashi's shoulder out of its socket, and then using the dislocated shoulder to swing him in a judo flip manner, although not perfect, as he was not used to such complicated maneuvers one after another. Kakashi was able to bend his back and land just barely on his toes, enough to reverse the momentum and counterflip Sasuke. But Sasuke's style of fighting, a ruthless creativity to the movement, was unique to Naruto, yet Sasuke had his own brute force and somewhat choppy manner to it that was purely his. For some reason, the only reason why he wasn't remotely afraid of the Jinan's actions, was that it lacked experience. Weird, indeed. How could the difference between two similar fighting styles by Jinans was a shit ton of experience? Kakashi was quick to realize not to be too introspective during this spar, as Sasuke was quick to use the bounce back from the impact to twist his hips and in a large arc, kicked Kakashi's shoulder with his left foot. Kind of like a breakdancer where they lean on the shoot and both legs form a 50-degree angle. The impact was weak, but it was front for a more powerful attack. He tucked in his right foot to go behind his left and stretched his hand into a single-handed handstand. Then spun 180 so that his legs were in a natural position, while harshly kicking up, down for Sasuke, with his right foot, successfully uppercutting Kakashi's chin. A wonderful maneuver, Kakashi thought as he took the hit. It was fast and clean, and very obviously planned on the spot, but it was unorthodox and creative. It was for a moment, but he could see Naruto doing the same as Sasuke right behind him, like it was him himself fighting Kakashi. Sasuke launched himself up from the single hand and gallantly landed without a sound. That's enough, you have a team battle today. Try not to wear yourself out. Sasuke quickly stood upright and nodded seriously. Then briskly jogged to a tree nearby and practiced the taijutsu formations that Naruto taught him. He attacked the tree with his forearm, then bent the same arm back enough to hit it again with his elbow, then smashed the bottom of his other arm's palm into the trunk, and raised his heel with much strength and stability to replicate a block. It was also unorthodox, attacking with appendages commonly used for blocking, and blocking with things commonly used for attacking. Suddenly, a punch would fly from the bottom and kick to your shin right when the rhythm of unorthodoxness was about to settle into the memory of the enemy. Many ninjas tend to feel a rhythm when they fight at a high enough level. Like a symphony of bass drums playing inside your ears, banging and making noise as you and enemy attacks. The rhythm. Some enemies have a loud, slow rhythm. Some have a light, rapid rhythm. Later in this tale, the presence of rhythm will be crucial, and can help dictate many fight scenes. For now, rhythm is not necessary, but I will keep referencing it as the characters, mainly Sasuke, gain an understanding of rhythm. Just putting it out there now so you can learn it better over time as the story progresses. At around 2 o'clock, an hour after both teams met and got to know each other, Guy thought it was about time to fight. Sasuke was willing as well. "Alright kiddo, you know what I've taught you. Keep calm, try to not let the opponent fall into a groove. Keep countering but don't speed up the battle, let the rhythm be calm." "What's rhythm, sensei?" "It is hard to understand now, but don't worry about it. Anyways, you are not expected to win, but stop before dealing any major injuries. The senseis will call off the match once they deem the injury you could have inflicted was enough to win." It was a roundabout way of saying that. Not expecting to win, but stop before dealing major injuries? It was a clever way of saying, you have the potential to win without enunciating it. Sasuke nodded once again and bowed deeply. After that, he simply grinned, and Kakashi ruffled his hair. Guy too started his pep talk, and his Jinan members belatedly gathered themselves up and dragged their feet toward Guy and his carbon copy Rock Lee. The level of discipline was clear. Is this what Jinan are supposed to be like? Thank God Naruto and Sasuke were extremely disciplined beforehand, thought Kakashi, as Sasuke sat beside him and circulated his chakra in prep for battle. A white-eyed person walked up to Sasuke, and asked him, "Why would you forcibly circulate chakra?" Sasuke glanced upward to meet his eyes. "Keeps me sharp, warms up the body without expending energy. Helps strengthen the muscles too." The Hyuga scoffed like it was all nonsense and walked away. "First up, Sasuke vs Rock Lee. They got into their stances, and Rock Lee had a little fire in his eyes. The Hokage said this team has the strongest Shanan of their batch. I cannot wait to fight you, friend. Sasuke nodded in a way that said likewise. The fight started and Rock Lee was quick to rush forward, only to be hit on the right by a roundhouse that was very poorly placed. His head only met the part of thigh slightly above his knees. He was way too close to land a roundhouse like that, but for some reason, Rock Lee could no longer feel his right arm. It wasn't a bad roundhouse, it was a front for a grapple that rendered the arms unusable. For a taijutsu user like Rock Lee, it was the worst matchup. Sasuke was quick to slightly release his arm-numbing grapple after the damage was done, only to fluidly slide into a leg-lock grapple from the behind, at the same time shifting his and Rock Lee's center of gravity, cog, forward so Rock Lee would fall with Sasuke on top. His arm useless and leg gone, Sasuke nimbly reached out and elbowed Lee's left shoulder blade as hard as he could. Now 2 arms out of commission and a leg pinned, Lee was out of fighting condition without a fight. Sasuke easily took the win. What was that technique? Rock Lee asked once both his arms and legs were movable again. There was a shine in his eyes. Naruto's grappling method of winning battles, strategy number 9, ideal for enemies who mostly use taijutsu and little nin/genjutsu. 3-point pin. Is this Naruto person some taijutsu sage? Guy asked, eavesdropping on the conversation. No, he's my teammate who couldn't make it today. The atmosphere dropped a few degrees. Sasuke vs Tenten. Without a moment to spare, Tenten had 3 scrolls spinning around her in a spiral. The ends fluttered wildly, and inside this vortex, Tenten slowly levitated. Overseer of Blade, Tenten shouted out her next attack. The levitation was simply due to the nature of the art, to enhance the overseer part of it all, and let the user gain a bird's-eye view of the field. Suddenly, the spiral started spewing weapons, and they fell quickly to the ground. And once the outpour of weapons finished, the spiral stopped spinning, and started rotating the other way even faster than before. The weapons too followed the spiral and formed a second vortex around Tenten going the opposite direction. Sasuke was in awe of the beauty of the technique. It took some prep time, which is why the art was designed to be mesmerizing. Suddenly, a single kunai launched at Sasuke, who quickly blocked sloppily. Out of his trance, he had his guard up. The technique's success rate relies mostly on the first sudden attack, and Sasuke blocked it. Tenten frowned. Second formation, full rain. The vortex sped up to a speed that made it look stationary. And there was a flash of light and intense boom, and after the flash subsided, all the weapons were scattered around the ground, indiscriminately ruining the training ground's perfectly leveled grass. Having Naruto pull all sorts of dirty tricks onto him, including a flashlight and a prepped firecracker, Sasuke was quite easily able to avoid most of the weapons. A single senbone got him bad in the shoulder though. Nothing impairing. Sasuke looked at the instructor. He wondered if that was a life-threatening attack enough. They looked back with eyes of intention. Great, my turn now. He sped through hand signs, and pulled his hand close to his mouth, and blew through it, a large fireball extending from his palm. Tenten quickly pulled out a large broad shield, and braced herself with chakra. Sasuke shot his fireball, and ran right behind it. The moment the fireball was close to Tenten, Sasuke stepped into his own fireball, and hid there momentarily. As Tenten blocked the fireball, she felt a slightly delayed push, and then a silhouette jumping over her, a kunai in its hand, pointed at her neck. Guy was quick to finish. He looked vaguely proud and also disappointed. Sometimes flashy doesn't mean good, Tenten, said Kakashi. And sometimes waiting to fight with a turn-based mindset will for sure kill you, said Guy to Sasuke. A new voice came into the picture. And sometimes taking a few seconds to pluck a senbone out of your shoulder helps long-term. Who was it that said this great sage-like advice? It was the blonde beast of talent. He had been fairly unimpressed when he saw the previous 2 spars. Only staying silent to help Sasuke improve. Having a thinking power so high, even sudden attacks feel like an eternity. He never has his guard up anymore, just the sheer ability to process knowledge and react faster than anyone no matter what condition is enough. Naruto was quick to comprehend the levels of everyone on the field right now. Jounins included. May I have the liberty of fighting the last spar? Sasuke frowned but quickly realized that Naruto was trying to show Sasuke something. Go ahead, he's all yours. Thanks. Naruto was going to show Sasuke his first ever demonstration of a battle won by brains and not brawn. He walked forward into a clearing that seemingly marked itself as the next arena for his spar. No trees to retreat behind, only grass, and a pond off to the side. Neji followed and got into a stance, frowning. Naruto grinned back, lighten the mood up. We're not going to murder each other. Naruto trailed off, a few harsh memories re-entered his mind. Neji frowned even further, the thought of murdering Naruto deeply disturbed him. Bingo, thought Naruto, but then again, This battle won't end without a fatal blow. Wonder if you can even land one on this feeble body, Naruto said, puffing out his chest. The sleeping silence of the arena was quickly nowhere to be seen, as Neji started his technique. A quick dash, and Neji closed off Naruto's chakra point. Few milliseconds later and another 3 closed off. The arm was now unmovable. In another few seconds, Naruto would be rendered useless. All his points would be blocked. Yer, how cute. The hand that was supposedly unable to move, drew itself up, and backhanded Neji 15 meters to the left. Naruto proceeded to unlock his chakra points in a flash. Precisely and without hesitation, one single movement, all of Neji's work neutralized. Said person got up from the bushes and looked shocked. How dare you? He grumbled. I'll lunge. All in slow motion, a few moments, as Neji lunged, he could see Naruto, or rather all 360 after images of him blocking every single of chakra points the moment he got into range. But he lunged. Now in the air, he can't stop. Had he ran, maybe a stop was possible. The rhythm started, it came, 2 loud booms of a bass drum. Then again the 2 loud booms. After every half meter, it came. Neji had 4 more loud booms before the excruciating pain. He could hear his mind talk to him as though he were another entity. Calm down. Lower your center of gravity, try to gain as much surface area on the ground as possible. He obliged. By thrusting his legs and chest down, he dropped rapidly, and his legs barely contacted the slipping ground. Boom boom. Your hips. Put them down. Try grabbing the ground with your hand. He did so, and he slowed considerably. Boom boom boom. There were 3 this time, to indicate the danger? Or perhaps to say Neji was safer. Get your legs dug into the ground, and start attempting to run the other way. His legs went down and hands up. A 180 turn, and then while moving in the direction he lunged, started running the opposite way. It was like moonwalking. No, moon running. Boom, a single loud one. And Neji wasn't anywhere close to stopping, despite cutting down to 20% his original speed. He ran faster and faster, 5% speed, 5 inches left. 4%, 4 inches. 3%, 3 inches. 2%, 2 inches. 1%, 1 inch. Neji slipped. A fatal mistake. Boom. It came silent. Like as though it mourned for Neji. The pain came flaring up. He felt a person tap his chest, then the pain instantly stopped. Kakashi was pulling Neji away while saving him, and Guy was squirming in pain where Neji was originally. Kakashi-sensei used Guy-sensei to substitute me, and had him take the brunt instead of me. The blonde looked at the green devil in front of him. He exhaled. That kid, Naruto said, could hear the rhythm. A pregnant pause. He heard the drums, didn't he? He had the look in his eyes. His actions had a timing to them. Congrats Hyuga brat. You just gained one of a ninja's best friend, he said to himself, outside of Neji's hearing capacity. Naruto unblocked Guy, and walked towards the freshly defeated Neji. Those drums, Naruto said to him, and Neji understood, listen to them well. Guy nodded instantly the moment he heard the drums. Kakashi closed his soul eye and raised a thumb. Naruto continued, he spoke a phrase that his mentor told him the first time he heard the rhythm. The rhythm is your music. Play it well. Neji couldn't understand it yet, but at least wasn't dumb enough to not realize the importance those words held to Naruto, and now to him as well. A loud gust of wind, a faint trickle of water, a croak of a frog, a sound of labored breathing, and the sound of the drums. Rhythm is in them all. Rhythm is them all. Chapter 5.5 Naruto was now 13, and he had far more experience with this world. Tenten and he were close pals. Sasuke now adorned a smile 24/7. Much in contrast to his previous demeanor, but still had his moments of depression. Rock Lee was in love with his new book, Naruto's Grappling Method of Winning Battles. Neji went on a year-long mission alone, administered by the Hyuga household, to train and hone his Byakugan. Currently, Naruto was sent on a reinforcement mission to help Genin's Kiba, Hinata, and Shino, led by Joun and Kurenai, Team 8, to help subdue Zabuza. Naruto was quick to respond to the original summons for reinforcement, and the Hokage knew that Naruto was ready for dealing with Zabuza, despite being a Jonin in name. But as for the reason Naruto wanted to fight Zabuza so badly, Kubikirabocho, Executioner's Blade. Naruto's first weapon after he got labeled a criminal in his old world. It healed itself with blood and had a shape designed for slicing through humans specifically. The ridge near the hilt sliced through appendages like elbows, knees, necks, and shoulders nicely. The long blade after the ridge, with a slightly protruding tip and went beyond the back of the sword was amazing, slicing, piercing, blocking, and grappling. The hole in the sword was great for aerodynamics, and the flat part of the blade could withstand many attacks. But the greatest part about it? You twist the bottom of the handle ever so slightly to the right, It splits right into two, lighter Kubikirabochos of the same size. Dual wield, baby. And then the added bonuses of all good swords, chakra conductive abilities, sharp edges that last longer and sharper than a great chef's favorite knife. They say the greatest chef's favorite knife is the sharpest thing in the world. As a professional at-home chef, I cannot help but chuckle in disappointment, but I can indeed say that chef knives are, or have the potential to be, insanely sharp. But all things said and done, he wanted to see Kurenai for some other things. No, this is not a Naruto's Kurenai pairing, pairings are yet to be decided. But the last thing I want is for this to stop focusing on the action and be too focused on creating an ultimate romantic story. Her genjutsu was supposedly unparalleled by those without dojutsu, and even rivals some prominent figures from the Uchiha clan, had they been alive. And that requires, mind you, in Naruto's own words, a crap ton of shit and shit ton of control. Vulgar much? But all things said and done, genjutsu was his favorite, not best, fighting style before Ansatsu Jitsu and the other two. Plus his secret one, hint hint, it's a kenjutsu and fuinjutsu mix. But for a child with aspirations as high Naruto, paired with the control of a rat-eating solid hydrochloric acid with a hint of lemon, learning genjutsu is the best first step. That or become the third green beast of Konoha. Yeah, no. Anyways, Naruto just passed over the water to the land of mist, and utilizing the help of a mix between flash step and Tarzan-style swinging, he glided through the forest with minimal effort and time, and reached the home that was the abode of the humble Tazna. Naruto knocked, and Kurenai responded right away, hand behind her back clenching a kunai. She noticed my chakra coming right at her and was prepared. Naruto looked at her hand once more. Very poorly. He spoke aloud, to which Kurenai felt disdain but paid no heed. She noticed the headband instantly and stealthily put away her kunai so Naruto wouldn't notice. He noticed pretty easily. For him, she was practically showing him the kunai on a pedestal. "They Santajan on? Your eyes are pretty, old auntie." Kurenai understood he felt offended, but she couldn't help but be reeling in pain and minimally happy at the same time from Naruto's statement. Kiba ran down the stairs and pounced at Naruto. "No, you don't." The great Jonan grabbed Kiba's throat and his other hand reached into his open mouth and grasped his upper jaw, and after a simple pivot with his left ankle, he threw Kiba into the pathway and stomped his chest. Sasuke would have attacked better than this, Naruto found himself thinking. Kiba wheezed, and when he gasped, Naruto was about to stomp again when Kurenai quickly slid in a curve and caught Naruto's foot, and kept her other hand over Kiba's hand, a green aura over it. Well, that was how it was supposed to go. Kurenai slid in a curve and attempted to grab his foot by placing her hand in the path of his foot, and started healing Kiba, but was shocked to see that her hand healing Kiba was stomped on, and the hand that was supposed to grab his foot caught the air. "He reacted to my movement in a millisecond and avoided my hand?" Kiba wheezed, even more, and a little mist of blood came out of his mouth with it. Naruto did not stop. He had no tolerance to those who attacked him, the remnants of his dark days as a criminal. He quickly lifted his foot, before Kurenai could even attempt to grab at him, and did a front flip, landing his ankle on Kiba's stomach, avoiding Kurenai's hand as she was not his target. Again, a remnant of his days as a VIP Anbu, to not kill or harm those who aren't the target. Kiba did not wheeze this time, he just got knocked out, but for some reason, Kurenai wasn't shocked, she seemed happy. Hinata came running down the stairs, looking gassed and tired. Her clothes were ripped and numerous scratch wounds adorned her skin. She had dark bags under her eyes and her hair was disheveled. "Sensei, Kiba Naruto?" She automatically turned red and tried to cover up as many of her bad features as she could with her hand. Kurenai interjected, "Kiba is in a trance. Our first fight with Zabuza ended poorly, Shino is currently in a coma and the slash in his back isn't closing, and Kiba was both traumatized and enraged, so he became like this." Naruto read about this somewhere, in Uzaki's Rage. Bingo, he can't stop being like this until he kills or witnesses the killing of Zabuza. Sigh, thanks for knocking him out, none of us have been able to. Naruto frowned, a Jounin couldn't take down a person of this caliber? And if so, why isn't she more surprised that I could? I have questions about Naruto, I'm assuming that's your name, since the description the Hokage gave me matches you perfectly. But first, let's go inside. Tazanai is working on the bridge and his family was evacuated by an upcoming rebellion group. This house is ours for now. Naruto nodded. He felt weird being told that the Hokage was easily spreading information about him to anybody. Yes, his standards for confidentiality are very high. He walked into the home after Kurenai stepped back in, and Hinata carried Kiba back inside, making sure to lock him in his room and add a seal to his door. Naruto smelled blood everywhere, and the home didn't feel very homely. It felt like a refugee camp. After some snooping around and inquiring with the others, it was safe to claim that the situation was quite dire. The Hokage was sugarcoating a lot of things, but Naruto understood by this point, he wasn't protecting Tezuna with the team, he was protecting Tezuna and the team. The hardest part about this is, the blonde sat down, he can't reveal his intentions to actually annihilate Zabuza and take the Kubi Karabocho for himself, and the fact that he hates operating with others who only tie him down. Even as a normal Anbu, he only completed the minimum protection type mission to get promoted to a VIP Anbu. Ah! Damn it all! It all ends if I kill Zabuza. The blonde stood up with new and fresh rigor. He pulled out 3 random kunais and tested their sharpness with his finger. Sharp enough, he spoke as he licked the blood on his finger off. Setting the kunai back, Naruto left a note, and rushed out the door. Moments later, Kurenai came running down the steps, as she felt Naruto's chakra signature rapidly moving away from the house, at faster than Jounin speed. And with the whole Zabuza terror going around, the best possible conclusion was achieved. Zabuza couldn't have, no. Impossible. I can't let Naruto die in my hands. Kurenai muttered, and rushed out, ignoring Naruto's note completely. After a few moments, at high speed running, the blonde quickly covered miles, and using his sonar pulses, he quickly found Zabuza. Aren't you rushing this decision? This seems quite in contrast to your usually calm and thoughtful manner. Haven't heard from you in a bit. Tsunezu's voice got sterner. Answer the question. Yes, I am rushing it, but Kurenai is enough for protection. If I'm holding off Zabuza, then the only thing this Gato guy can do is rally up the mobs and launch a gung-ho attack directly on the house. We both know genjutsu works better for the masses. Naruto had not yet realized that Kurenai was following him. In fact, she was so slow in comparison to Naruto, she had already stepped out of his, insanely large mind you, sensing range. She was only following the general direction of where he was headed. Eventually, Zabuza eating a meal with someone else came into view of the blonde. There were empty sake bottles all around them, even Naruto could smell the stench from here. The other person, a child of the same age as Naruto, was not eating, and was standing up, head bent down and leaning forward in a submissive bow. He was eating, and the person beside him flinched as he reached for seconds. Flinching? Naruto ran himself through the causes of flinching for almost no reason. Torture trauma? Now that Naruto got a good look at their surroundings, it was filled with torturing tools, including bloody tweezers, knives, and even the state-of-art zapper. The person's clothes covered a lot of the features necessary to determine gender, and the skin shown had scars and still open wounds. Haku. Get me sake. Zabuza spoke, his voice jumpy and clearly indicating heavy intoxication. The person obediently ran to the nearest unopened sake bottle and opened it, and frantically gave it to Zabuza. He held the bottle and let a growl escape his lips. Insolent brat. It's not cold. I told you to bring me sake cold. Argh. You dare defy me. He stood up, visibly shaking. The bowl on his lap filled with food came tumbling down and the food spilled, and sake sloshed around and a majority of it flew out, pouring on Haku. Zabuza front-kicked Haku, who dared not to block it. Naruto saw his or her eyes, they saw the kick coming. The same way he saw it. In slow motion, but he or she didn't block it? Not even an attempt? As this Haku person went flying into a torturing tool behind her, she let out a gasp that was quite feminine. Too feminine to be a high-pitched male. Zabuza took an empty sake bottle and shattered it on his chest, and still held onto the handle. With the handle, he pointed to a table that was meant to stretch itself, while trapping the hand and feet of whoever laid on it. Brutal by itself. Lay on it. Now. She trembled, and started crying. I fucking told you to lay on it. Not weep like a fucking child. I took care of you for 10 years for this? He walked with visible rage and threw the handle at Haku, impaling the sharp ends into her arm. Still trying to defy me? How dare you? He kept picking up bottles, shattering them, and then throwing the handle at Haku. Some missed due to his intoxicated state, and others missed because Haku moved ever so slightly, but 90% hit regardless. Zabuza got extremely close and kicked Haku in the direction of the table. She went tumbling towards it with intense speed. Crash! Her shoulder hit the table hard. It was already impaled by sake bottles, so only caused greater injury, but Haku was no longer crying. Her brown eyes turned a bright azure blue, and a bluish aura enveloped her. The blonde gulped, just from sheer excitement. After all, even Naruto enters that state often, the most recent being when he committed the Midnight Massacre before his Junon test. Temperament overdrive. He muttered what this state was called, named by Naruto himself, and was a state, by the history of his first life, that would be first witnessed 12 years from now. Haku raised her fists, and her female physique only seemed to make it more formidable, and her hair was fluttering wildly behind her. But perhaps the greatest thing that happened was that the sake Zabuza spilled on her became frozen on her shirt. Ice style? Zabuza was not shocked at the ice, but rather that she dared to even fight him. So much so, the man did not speak, but only hastened his shaking of rage. Now is as good a time as ever to pop out of this place. Naruto spoke, jumping down, and quickly dashing towards Zabuza, kunai in hand. Zabuza did not notice Naruto in sheer rage plus intoxication that when he did, it was too late. The blonde jumped towards Zabuza, spiraling rapidly with the kunai, and with all the centrifugal force he developed, stopped himself, and slashed a deep cut into his neck, and painted the air with a perfect crescent of red trailing from the bloody kunai. "Have a good night," Naruto mentioned as he kicked off Zabuza's dead chest, backflipping, and landing perfectly on the ground, hands up in a showy posture as though he were a gymnast. "Having fun, are we?" "You betcha." Naruto spoke. His identity was in a crisis right now, since the biggest things happening in his life disappeared, and a new life was given to him afresh. He still didn't know how to react and think, so he had a happy personality this time. He glanced at Zabuza, and made sure he was dead. No breath, no pulse, and now chakra flows. He's a corpse for sure. That easy? Wasn't he like the owner of the Kubi Karabocho? Ninjas still haven't developed to your level just yet, but still. He whined like a child who lost something. "Why, you killed him?" Naruto turned around, and saw Haku still in temperament overdrive, too, but not being aggressive. Damn, facing someone into really would make a normal guy shiver in his boots, wouldn't it? "Sai, I'm guessing you're still unfazed?" "I'm not normal. It's insulting you even question that." Naruto still had to respond to the inquiry given to him. "Yeah. He seemed like." "Thank you." She spoke, now out of two, and hugging Naruto tightly. "It was nothing?" Naruto spoke, unsure of what to say. He didn't avoid the hug, it was easy for him to, but rather he was curious about why she was saying thank you, but reaching into his utility pouch and grasping one of his kunai. A few moments passed during which Haku made sure of her grip on Naruto's kunai behind his back. And then muttered, "I'm sorry." "No you aren't." Chop. A quick chop to the neck and she was out cold. The kunai in her hand fell helplessly and slumped on his shoulder. "I would have killed you, but ice types are rare. And if my history is right, you could be one of the last of the Yuki tribe." A rustle in the bushes, and the 2+ corpses were missing. From the bush emerged a panting Kurenai. "Oh, it's just you." Naruto spoke. Haku and Zabuza were hanging from his shoulders, but he carried them effortlessly, his knees not buckling the least. "Naruto. What is all tea?" "Here, hold this." Naruto spoke, and Kurenai reached for one of the bodies quickly, realizing that she could have her inquiries solved later. Naruto grabbed Zabuza and chucked him, quite literally, at Kurenai. "Zabuza? He's dead? How did you kill him?" "Kunai to neck, simple and clean, as all killing should be." There was a long pause, in which Kurenai deeply reflected Naruto's statement. "I have so many questions about Naruto, and you're going to have to answer a few of them for sure." Yeah I will, but first, let's go home. My job is over, Kiba's is going to be fixed after seeing that." He pointed to Zabuza, "and your worries are going to be much less. I'll take Shino back with me since he can get better treatment at Konoha, and then come back to finish the rest of the mission with you as Shino's replacement." Kurenai's eyes widened. She gazed upon Naruto as he looked around the site for something. Amongst all this, she realized that Naruto was already leagues above people his age, and possibly greater than her as a shinobi. He thought about all this the moment he came and rushed to finish the job instantly, all whilst caring about the team but not sacrificing practicality. His tendency to do gung-ho things will need work, but that can be said about many shinobi of all ranks, even some Hokages. Kurenai was snapped out of her daze, as amongst the open sake bottles, Naruto lifted a large blade with a single hand. It was chipped and ruined, and smelled of alcohol, and it looked like a desaturated picture. "Age. This is worse than I thought." After many moments, a voice spoke out from the trance Naruto had, belonging to the Jounin. "Let's go home, Naruto." "All right." The wind blowed and moved a few leaves, upon which Naruto jumped headfirst into a few trees. If you want to see the best representation of how I envision Naruto's headfirst jump, which he uses mainly to quickly garner speed and cover distance easily, search up Warframe bullet jump gif and go to images. It looks a little over the top from what I imagined, but the essence is there. But yes, Naruto spins when he bullet jumps. It can only be done once and then you have to land on ground, but I'm making it so that Naruto can propel himself off anything, trees, walls, roofs, and eventually once his level gets high enough, straight off the air. Kurenai also jumped only a few nanoseconds after Naruto but was already far behind him. Now the surprise building up inside her started seeping out. How the hell is he so fast at 13 years old? Can't help it, Obasan, gotta go fast. Moments later, he got home, threw Haku onto the sofa, picked up Shino from where he was resting and made his way to Konoha, making sure to dispose of his previous note so that any misconceptions were cleared, and then again, did consecutive head-first jumps, making sure not to spin so that Shino feels minimal discomfort. He did lose about 15% speed not spinning, but gained 20% extra speed by propelling himself more often, and an additional 30% speed by using his Kubikarabocho as a handle of sorts so his propelling was more powerful. After some intense propelling, the blonde got to Konoha in under 30 minutes. Yes, did go all out, in general using 135% of his entire ability. JK. Naruto could make the same trip in 5 minutes alone. The blonde walked into Konoha, somewhat early evening, completely fine, Shino comfortably resting on his back. Luckily, he made sure that the impact from jumping at such high speeds would not reach Shino, and that took a lot more energy than he thought. But I gotta do what I gotta do. The winds beckoned Naruto forward, and the blonde got to the hospital relatively fine. Unfortunately, he still had to take the back routes and alleyways, as well leave Shino on the doorstep of the hospital and knock before running away. His reputation in the village never got better. Meanwhile, in the land of waves, Kurenai got back to the home around 45 minutes, not only because she wasn't pushing herself to be faster, but she was also carrying the hunk called Zabuza. Upon reaching, she quickly went up to Kiba's room, where she found Hinata tattered and looking terrible, dozing off on the floor in front of Kiba's door. She smiled, knowing that Hinata was such a caring person and kind to the bone. I'm not sure I could hold on that long, trying to restrain Kiba. She placed Zabuza down, and meticulously placed Hinata on her bed, then went back to Zabuza. She unsealed Kiba's room, and threw Zabuza in the room. Kiba's growling was heard, it was deep and rowdy, very grotesque yet weak-sounding. He had no food, sleep, water, or rest, in this state, and his body was going past its limits. GRR. The growling died out, and Kiba was sprawled on the floor, asleep in front of Zabuza's corpse. As the narrator, I assure you, Zabuza really is dead. No really, there will be no grandiose plan in which Zabuza was alive the whole time. He is dead. I thought to myself, since Naruto can beat up Kakashi, when the Jounin uses his Sharingan and goes full out, but the same Kakashi can beat Zabuza, then Naruto can easily beat Zabuza. AB, BC, therefore AC. Kurenai moved Kiba back to his bed, and carried Zabuza outside, where she covered him with sticks and dry leaves, and lit him on fire in front of the house. Eventually, after basking in the warmth during the cool, dark blue evening, she walked back inside and tied up Haku's arms and feet, as well as sealed her chakra, then gently placed her in the vacant guest bedroom. All her tasks finished, she turned on a small light next to a sofa, and sat down with a book and a cup of tea, a blanket around her shoulder. Getting herself comfortable, she read peacefully in the dim light as the evening progressed, all the way into the early night until she fell asleep. It was around this time that Naruto came back. He took his sweet time at Konoha, making sure Shino got administered to the hospital safely, as well as taking the liberty of sparring with Sasuke and Kakashi one more time in a 2v1 fashion, and beating them, before stepping back into the forest toward Kurenai. The path to the land of waves required a method to travel through water. Naruto easily avoided this difficulty that most amateur ninjas face, by simply using a rendition of his bullet jump. Aquatic frog leap, as he called it at first, when he performed and developed the technique for the first time, but eventually referred to it as simply jumping fast but underwater. But in essence, it was basically jumping so hard yet delicately off of the surface of the water, that two things happen. 1. The jumper gets propelled. 2. The water's surface tension caused by the covalent bond between the molecules, is sufficient enough as a platform to launch the jumper. Niwata's law, Newton's law, states that all force must be reciprocated by an opposite object with the same magnitude and opposite direction. So the force this bullet jump creates is very high, tons of tons, in fact, pun intended, but the surface tension of water cannot maintain such a thing, so, simply put, using a style of stepping similar to the short-distance shunshine, a technique that does not utilize chakra, the force applied is retracted faster than the opposite object can reciprocate it. The short-distance shunshine stepping motion helps, as the point of impact is greatly reduced, as the impact put on the ground is mostly on the big and middle toe, first two from the inside of the foot, and is done in a jabbing-like fashion. The SDS, short-distance shunshine, is actually a rapid sprint, instead of the much-believed jump or teleportation that people perceive it to be. And if performed in slow motion, it looks as though the performer is running awkwardly. The performer will look as though his/her toes hit the ground as hard as he can, but quickly retracts the foot a fraction of a yoctosecond, a second multiplied by 10 to the minus 24. Search it up. What is a yocto? You'll see. With this technique in hand, used and performed with minor tweaks for water, can essentially let any person run quickly on water without the use of chakra. A breakthrough in Naruto's old life that forever changed water-top warfare. The only real problem is that the water does not support objects that are stationary, so whoever tries to run in place using this technique on water will still fall. Sorry for my moment of geeking out and theorizing weird shit. Hence Naruto made distance over water. By around 11:30 p.m., Naruto was back at Tazuna's home. He found Kurenai peacefully sleeping on the sofa, her legs up and in a fetal position, a blanket covering her, and an open book on the side table. The dim light gently gave Kurenai a glow as she slept. Naruto was indifferent to her beauty, and walked past her to where he sensed Haku's repressed and sealed, but calm chakra signature. He opened the door, and saw that Haku was awake, her eyes dead, but her body calm, despite being tied up and chakra sealed. "Good evening, your name?" She spoke calmly. Haku, all right. "Good evening then, Haku. Hungry?" She stiffened her neck, and pursed her lips, as though she dare not make any indication of response, through head movement or audible speech. Naruto noticed, but didn't point it out. But her stomach grumbled loud. "Pffft. You okay with some soup?" Again her belly responded for her. And Naruto made his way downstairs, after untying her arms and legs, and locking the door behind him once he left. Any attempt she made to escape would be caught and she could never outrun Naruto anyway. The blonde Junon was a beast to be reckoned with. And this fact was something Haku understood quickly, and resolved herself to stay here. Downstairs, Naruto got started. He found a sharp knife, at least by common standards, and a cutting board. Some onions, tomatoes, carrots, chicken bone, vegetable broth and chicken stock, and some other things. In a large pot, he poured a hefty amount of water and dumped the ingredients inside, washed and untampered with, along with salt and a small pinch of sugar. Then he let the water simmer for a few minutes, before eventually adding everything into a large bowl and mashing everything together, after removing all inedible or even remotely bad-tasting parts, until a smooth, velvety soul was formed. He added a little more salt after a simple taste test and instantly threw the pot on the stove. The last thing he needs is a tasteless vegetable mash. In fact, his skills had gotten a bit rusty. Since in this world, he never had access to good ingredients and even functioning kitchenware, but habits die hard, and some of the skills Naruto made sure to hone and perfect were still fresh and unhindered, as though they had been practiced since the invention of cooking. Yes, that level of brilliance. All in all, the soup came out fantastic, despite it not being made in a way that's best for a good soup. Pouring it meticulously into a wood bowl and garnishing with basil and a little bit of butter, he went upstairs and handed the bowl to Haku, who despite her doubtfulness in the safety of the soup gulped it down in a few seconds. Didn't even try to enjoy the food, did she? She looked down shamefully, as her two hands extended out for seconds. Smiling, the bowl left her hand and went back to Naruto, who instead of getting up, opened his mouth to speak. "Did Zabuza torture you?" The sudden bringing up of Zabuza, the name of her longest, deepest, trauma, froze her. Her chakra seeped out in a non-violent, but freezing manner. "Yes," she spoke. Not a single stutter or vibration in her voice, the single word was projected clear and concise. The person who said it, however, was currently breaking down. God knows how many people broke down in front of Naruto, asking for mercy, crying from torture, regretting old decisions, all the sort, and eventually killed all sympathy for a weeping individual from Naruto. Cold-hearted through and through, the indifferent blonde waited as though he was waiting for the bus to arrive, and stared off into nothingness as she trembled. As the girl once again regained a fragile composure, his second question, one which caused his face to darken in cold anticipation for the response. "You like the food?" She raised her head, the face of Naruto quite indeed invoking a little bit of fear, but she couldn't help but laugh. She laughed, and upon this session of laughter she realized she was free from so many things. Free from Zabuza, free from the torture, free from slavery, free from regret, free from helplessness, and most importantly, free from this state of lifelessness, a state that kept her from falling into madness from her fine string of sanity. But now, she could smile without worrying about her being a nuisance. A gift that she quite frankly earned. Tears rolled down as she laughed, and the laughter continued, not from Naruto's actions, but she laughed at something far deeper into herself, and cried about the same thing. The tears stopped rolling down, but the laughter continued. A hearty, bouncy, childish laughter, that held great experiences behind it. A laugh that told the story of a desperate child who got saved. "Yes, I loved it so much." She spoke after regaining her breath, and she looked up. Dirt and grease covered her widely smiling face, her hair disheveled and falling to her knees, arms as thin as bones, but perhaps the best she looked all day. "Coming right up. How about while you wait, take a shower, and get into some clean clothes? I'll wake up the rest and prepare meals for them too. Okay. And so, Naruto successfully assisted Team Kurenai. He went down, and prepared the same soup but for larger people. And expecting that everybody will eat for 3, going by overall wellness and condition of everybody in the household. In the end he prepared dinner for 16 people, 12 for Kurenai, Hinata, Kiba, and Haku, 2 for Naruto and Tazuna, 2 for food measure in case anyone didn't have their fill yet. He also prepared sandwiches and a quick batch of croutons. The smell alone woke up Kiba and Kurenai, and Haku had already come downstairs. Naruto went to wake up Hinata, but Kurenai refused and went to go herself. If Hinata woke up after the best sleep she's had in a long time, and the first thing she sees is your face, then you won't be able to wake her up till morning. Naruto nodded, while internally teasing Hinata. To think she can't handle a face as handsome as mine. Poor girl can handle these guns. He thought while internally kissing his biceps and grooming his whiskers. Yes, his identity crisis hits hard sometimes. Now obviously Hinata was shocked to see Naruto cooking and serving her food, and deeply troubled/pleased by the fact that Naruto touched every part of my food but otherwise she ate in peace. No one dared to bring up Haku as all attempts were shut down by Kurenai and Naruto. After everyone had their fill, including Tazuna as Naruto went to deliver his food directly to the bridge, the elephant in the room was addressed. Tazuna was still at the bridge so this was 100% a talk between shinobi. Kiba was the first to raise a finger, to which Kurenai opened her mouth to stop but Naruto stopped her, and nodded to Kiba. First of all, who is she? And why does she smell like him? Him was obviously Zabuza. And for a person she had lived with for so long, a simple shower couldn't mask the scent to a Ninuzaki's nose. Haku visibly became flustered and hence Naruto responded for her to Kiba. She was the slave of Zabuza since she was very young. She had been tortured, abused, and suffered through a lot of horrendous acts. Luckily, when I killed Zabuza, Hinata's and Kiba's eyes visibly widened in surprise and disbelief. I found her half-beaten. Upon hearing such information, they looked to Kurenai like a child looking for confirmation from a parent. Cute. It's all true. All of it? Said Kiba, though he only referred to the part about Naruto single-handedly killing Zabuza. Every single detail was true to the letter. Hinata managed to get her voice out for the first time. She clearly was forcing herself to speak in Naruto's presence. What's going to Haku now? If we take her back to Konoha, and the Hokage is lenient, then she will learn from the academy, and become a Genin. I'll see if I can request a crash course academy, an intensive 3 weeks plus test, so that Haku can be battle ready as fast as possible. Then, after his thoughts became a little more clear. If we're lucky as well, then she can skip the academy and go straight to the test. Then she could take your vacant spot where Shino was, or become our third team member. All things said and done, a lot of this relies on the Hokage's willingness to take her into Konoha, and more importantly see that she is no longer related to Zabuza or his goals anymore. Kurenai chirped in, I'll pitch in for Haku's acceptance into Konoha. But if Hiruzen was to still be cautious of Haku, he might ban her from being a shinobi. For the first time in this entire conversation, did the person who was the subject of the matter actually speak. As long as I can live free and safe, I'm happy. I've never wished to use chakra, and using my ice style to hurt others was always against my values. Naruto grimaced at the idea that such a talented and potential-filled individual didn't want to use her skills, but ultimately agreed. I know it seems against Naruto's nature, being a cruel, cunning, sharp mind who was brutal and emotionless to the core, but regardless of all that, he valued virtues such as frankness and safety on a deeper level than most can even think of. Since those two virtues are the things most easily and quickly stripped away from criminals. Haku continued, I feel so happy that I was rescued by you. I'm truly grateful that the string of fate led you to me. You gave me food, clean clothes, and rest, despite me being an accomplice of a man that ruined your team. This feels awfully familiar, doesn't it? What do you mean? It's the exact opposite of your situation, is it not? You also were an accomplice of Kurama, but the villagers treated you exactly the opposite. Neither you nor Haku helped Kurama or Zabuza in any way, but are still irrefutably connected to their evil counterparts. For Haku, she was accepted as a completely separate entity from Zabuza, and Kurenai's team has accepted that, and don't harbor any hate. The people of Konoha however find you as the same as Kurama. A monster in man's skin. Internally, deep inside, Ian felt jealousy. He hadn't gone down the road of ninja-ship beyond the academy and hence never obtained certain morals and ideologies. He didn't feel guilty when he felt jealous, he felt rage. And when Ian thought about how easily Haku got something he slogged every day for, a fuse blew up. And this explosion was big. Red aura seeped out of Naruto, and his whiskers grew thick and intense. His canines extended and sharpened themselves, and his nails grew. Well shit. His senses going haywire and anger/rage was not a rare event for Naruto. But at least he knew what angered him, and could always turn his anger off like a switch. But this was different. It came from him, felt familiar and so closely resembled his emotion of rage, but it wasn't his. Damn fox. Naruto. What's going on? The blonde looked at the people around the table for the first time since the aura started. Hinata was struggling to breathe and Kiba looked like a dog in pain. Through the heavy, almost opaque aura, Naruto could barely make out that even Kurenai-sensei was having trouble. But her skills and experience that's got her to the position she is now, respected jounin of Konoha and a valuable part of its attack power, really came to show themselves. Within all her pains, she managed to keep a part of her mind rational enough to pinch her thighs as hard as possible and force herself to breathe calmly and deeply. But Hinata and Kiba were still in distress and Kurenai was in no state to help them. Or was she? In a harsh, silent whisper. 14 sealing arts. 14's burden. Chakra that combated the aura seeped rapidly around Naruto and the aura. Obviously it wasn't enough to stop the aura, but that wasn't what she was going for. The Fuinjutsu couldn't keep the aura at bay, but could push it away. From the Jinan. In a few moments, Hinata had resumed breathing and thinking normally, and both Kiba and Haku were passed out but safe from harm. Through the struggles of pushing past his rage, he shouted, "Run away. This red stuff's about to become violent." Kurenai glanced at Hinata before grabbing Kiba and watching Hinata grab Haku, and then speeding to the door, and racing out, safe from anything that she believed could happen. It was 2:30 a.m. exactly, and Kurenai, immediately after leaving the house, saw a horde of people led by a chubby, short man, whom she knew was named Gato. He stroked his chin in a pleased manner, and grinned. Kurenai noticed the crowd of 250-ish around them. All of them were Chunin level or higher shinobi. She had no hope, and Hinata was behind her, and the one trump card she had obtained was currently about to self-destruct. She panicked. It was the first time in a long time, and it didn't show externally, but she was panicking in her head. Shouts from the shinobi on front of her echoes and growled and pulled out weapons and started doing hand signs. So much noise, Kurenai thought. Her senses were in full flare. Amongst it all though, a single, perfect voice, reached out to her. Genjutsu always works better on the masses. She looked behind her, shocked, and saw Naruto, a hot red punch mark on his cheek. "Naruto? I'm fine, you rest up a bit, I got this." Naruto wasn't cold-hearted enough to not recognize that for anybody, a day as stressful as the last 24 hours was very tiring, and that this day was going on till 2:30, way past bedtime. Jounin or not, both physical and mental exhaustion was imminent and unavoidable. Kurenai shook her head, which Naruto did not even try to understand why. He saw the resistance and closed it. Chop. A chop to the neck and Kurenai was out cold. Naruto, quite ungentlemanlike, threw Kurenai into the home. Hinata followed suit on her own. He sighed, and his breath came out as fog. He was angry that he got angry. Yes, he didn't like it when his emotions were not in control. He prided himself on being able to meddle with his emotion like it was Play-Doh, but this deeply annoyed him. Naruto did not think, plan, or even pull out a kunai. His canines did not enlarge and whiskers furry up. Not a single drop of ki was released, or a single fluctuation in his chakra. Naruto looked as calm as can be, yet how furiously the sky trembled in front of him. Gato screamed at his men. And they ran at Naruto. He looked down once, from his gaze that went onto the sky and thought, and simply spoke. Oh poor souls. Everything beyond this point was indescribable by Kurenai, Hinata, Haku, or anyone who witnessed it. His hands alone, ripped past armor, cut through arms, and tore up bodies. His feet kicked into people, and stepped into so many. His kicks blew entire people apart. By the end of it, Naruto had easily decimated the 250 shinobi. And only his hands and feet were covered with red. His clothes, face, hair, everything except his feet and hands, were pristine. Not a single sweat bead on Naruto. His breath was normal, his chakra still full and flowing. There was silence. Gato stood in place, shocked. Not a sound could be made. Naruto reached down and picked up an amulet in front of the man. He opened it and saw the shinobi, and another female beside him in the other piece. She was very beautiful, and was possibly the wife of the man. Naruto felt it internally start to cry. "Are you sad we killed this man?" In responded. He was a husband, he was going to go home after this and smile after seeing his wife. She would be staying up, so that she could greet him when he came home. She'll never see him again and we made sure she'll never see him again. Are you not happy we are alive? Ian stopped crying. Naruto felt Shinizu also paying attention to him. They had understood something very important. The Naruto they know, had a personality so heavily based on his experiences, a simple identity crisis wouldn't budge it. "You're a monster." Naruto smiled, It had been a long time since he heard that. It brought him melancholy joy. Tsuneizu had a different view. I knew it was the right idea to choose you. How could you be right about picking a monster? Did you not see this? He killed 250 lives and was happy because he fucking survived. He did not care that those people had lives too. That's sheer insanity. I picked him because he doesn't give a shit to things like that. That's the difference between you and him. You don't know real darkness. You know loneliness, physical pain, struggle. But he's survived it all and thrived. Tsuneizu's voice softened. He forged himself to be indifferent. You simply ignored it. Ignorance is different from indifference. Ignorance keeps you sane. Indifference keeps you safe. Ian was not pleased, and he wasn't going to give up. Tsuneizu decided that it was best to simply show him. Ian, watch. Tsuneizu inserted a memory into Ian's head. It was a memory of Naruto's. Genin Naruto. He was on a battlefield. It was him, a few other Genin, and 3 Jounin who were running. Buy us some time, trash. You need the strong ninja to live. We don't need trash like you. Hold them off here and die, said one of the Jounin. Another one chirped in, don't you dare run away. In the distance, an army of 1,150 fully trained shinobi. Genin Naruto stood up, and rallied up all his Genin, and counted them up. 14 Genin, huh? His voice was happy and charismatic. 15 troops against 1,150. We got a mission, folks. It's our first mission since the academy. Simple, right? Hold off the enemy till the VIPs get to safety. We've learned about this in the academy. Some of the Genin started crying, and Naruto's voice started to break down. G, get up. Don't start crying. Naruto spoke, a few tears rolling down his cheeks. Tsuneizu fast-forwarded. The numbers dropped to 6, Naruto included. 1 got slashed easily, and now there were 5. Naruto knew them all by name. Shinto, Mira, Hitoha, and more. All of them dead. Rage swelled, nowhere near the rage Naruto could muster up now, but it was there. And it was uncontrolled. Made him foolish. He shouted with his might and went on a rampage. Here he was so excited that this was the first time he was on a mission with all his close friends. Why did you kill them? For all he cared, it was their last mission. Tsuneizu sighed and fast-forwarded. Naruto fought for 3 days without rest. His arms and legs and chest and head and everything bruised and cut and sliced. He lost blood by the leader but stood upright. And yet, no one lived to witness it. 1,150 well-trained shinobi, wiped out, but the eyes of Naruto were dead. He looked at his friend's corpse, and shrugged. It no longer affected him. He didn't feel rage or relief, just a numbing sense of nothing. Indifference to the world around him. It hurt, and it will hurt forever. And this experience was Ian's to share with him. And now, Naruto was justified. Ian had nothing to say to man so terribly broken by his own conflicts. It wasn't pity nor admiration. It was sheer consideration for a disturbed individual. I understand. Where'd all your vigor go? Ian smiled. He lost it completely. In fact, it was the first time Ian felt that maybe his life was better than most. He shook his head and stayed silent, quietly developing his chakra and making sure that Kurama stayed dormant. Outside, Naruto piled up all the bodies he made, after letting Gato go, and with a simple fire jutsu, and a lot of chakra, set it ablaze. Kurenai, who got knocked out, only to come to again near the end of the fight, once again realized the need for a serious session of Q&A with the boy. It was now 2:39, yes, 7 minutes to kill 250 shinobi. Naruto walked back indoors after basking in the flames. He let Gato go. He felt the need to make sure Gato realizes his mistakes before Naruto makes him realize. As walked past the door frame, he glanced at Kurenai. My chakra control is beyond trash. There's too much to control at once. And right now, my goal is to learn Genjutsu to the best of my abilities. He paused, making sure his eye contact with Kurenai was stable. I need you to help me with that. Naruto had already switched to another topic, but the rest of the squad was still stuck on the events that conspired a minute ago. Sigh. Naruto, we need to have a talk. It's not going to wait tomorrow, we're having it right now. Naruto had the general idea. She was going to try to get some info about him straight from the source. How cute. After putting Hinata, Kiba, and Haku securely asleep, Kurenai sat down at the dining table and motioned Naruto to follow suit. Who are you? There's no way you're a Genin who passed a few months ago. Sasuke hasn't reached your level and he was the top of your class. You graduated at the bottom. Don't give me any of this hard work bullshit, I'm not falling for it. The blonde put his elbows on the dining table and propped his chin on both of his hands, very childlike. Latent talent? Kurenai understood he did not wish to tell. But right now, Naruto was a part of Kurenai's team, and Kurenai needed to know whether or not Naruto is a danger to her team. After all, any person in proximity of another so insanely powerful person would be cautious. Give me more. You don't know what talent you have until somebody tells you, and no one talks to you in the village. Kurenai grimaced internally. It wasn't going to sit well with what she'll have to say next. You're a monster inside those gates, remember? Naruto couldn't help it this time. Cute. He had to say it. This attempt of an interrogation was weak. It was beyond that sometimes. Huh? She shouted. Sorry, you don't know how to pull out information, do you? And you can't put genjutsu on a Jinchuriki. I've seen you try before. Naruto swirled his hand above him, gently nudging the chakra Kurenai had expelled over him. Openness genjutsu? Trying to make it easier to work with? You put too much faith in simple methods. Her red eyes glowed. An open challenge. Give me all you've got. Kurenai did not speak, she simply pointed to her eyes. The genjutsu was inspired from the Sharingan Jujutsu, but the trigger was not actually the eyes, it was the finger pointing to it. Naruto stared at it. Kurenai noticed. Gotcha. Kurenai spoke. She unleashed her genjutsu, fully expecting it to hit, only for Naruto to shrug in complete normalness. Don't try. And I think this meeting is over, good night. Kurenai and Naruto stood up and Naruto made his way to his room, as Kurenai quietly observed his retreating form. Tell me, how did you get so strong so quickly? She wanted Urjanon to grow as well. You couldn't do it even if you had the choice to. Naruto turned his head around, and his words brought about memories he wished to forget. Memories so vividly disturbing and traumatizing, his eyes turned grayish-blue for a flash. His entire body language drowned in sorrow for a moment, and Naruto smiled weakly. It would be too much for someone to handle. Kurenai saw the sadness in his eyes, and felt indescribable experiences behind them. Why did you have to go to sleep? Why? Naruto looked deeper into Kurenai's eyes as though they searched through her memories. You've never been through war, have you? The Naruto that Kurenai was talking to was not the 14-year-old Naruto she saw. There was a powerful man behind him, who survived too many times. A man who died alone and tragically. She did not ask questions then, and she did not feel grief that her interrogation failed. Good night, Naruto. Sleep tight. The night was not a comfortable one, but many people got a well-deserved rest. The next day, Naruto was gone with Haku, a not saying he'll be back. Obviously he came back well before anyone was awake. Took him 40 minutes to get there, 5 to come back, and he started at 6:30. So he prepared his gear by sharpening all his kunai and shurikens and repainting his paper bombs and seals. It was now 8:30, and Kurenai had just woke up. She was obviously quite tired from yesterday, but she should rather finish the mission and go home, than sleep in full leisure. Acceptable, Naruto thought. If he was going to be cautious about his sleep, he would either not sleep at all, or sleep for 5 minutes at a time, patrolling every 5 minutes for 10 minutes. But he was learning and quickly understood that his levels were far above anybody else's. Kurenai walked down the stairs and waltzed onto the front yard, where she sat down and took deep breaths. The only work remaining is the finishing of the bridge. She spoke to herself. There was some silence and she drifted angrily. Ah, what is up with that Jinan the Hokage sent over? One doesn't simply just kill Zabuza and 250 shinobi alone easily. That's insane. And he made 2 round trips to Konoha and here in the same day. It hurts my brain. Hinata decided to wake up at 9:15. Naruto was calmly reading a book in the kitchen, and Kurenai was talking to the plants outside. She did not know Naruto was awake. Hi sensei, what are we doing today? Kurenai turned around sharply, partly because her talking to plants was embarrassing, but she wanted Hinata to sleep more. We're taking the day off. Today just rest and gather yourselves. Hinata shook her head. I want to help with anything. You helped Kiba more than enough. A day off is necessary for good development. Overworking causes more harm than good. Hinata opened her mouth when Naruto hugged her from behind. And Naruto? It was not a normal hug though, she quickly realized. His arms tightened around her waist and he flipped her over, knocking her out for at least 6 to 7 hours guaranteed. There, all fixed. Naruto spoke, lifting up Hinata and carrying her to her bed, where he gently tucked her in. Kurenai sighed, gung-ho as always. That day went by peacefully, and Gato was obviously conspiring something, but the tiny little sliver of faith in humanity left in Naruto let him believe that Gato was not. The next day came, and Tazuna, who usually stays on the bridge 24/7, made his way home, his clothes burnt and his arm badly injured. Gato, he said at the door frame, and Naruto was already on his way. Upon arrival, the bridge was aflame. Half of their hard work now turned into ashes. Naruto quickly made his way to the river down below, and punched the surface of the water so hard it drenched the bridge completely. Gato stammered before running away, noticing the blasted blonde-haired shinobi. Naruto was not having it. He raced after Gato, and within moments, he was in front of him, deadly sharp kunai in hand, his body churning out intensely potent ki. I trusted you to repent. I thought that this world was different. You are all scum in the end. Slice. Blood spattered and Naruto avoided it gracefully. Gato screamed due to his missing finger. Naruto repeated the process 9 more times. 8 fingers and 2 thumbs lay on the ground. Next Naruto cut off his toes. All of them. Then the wrists and ankles. Then the elbows and knees. Then the hips and shoulders. Then Naruto paused. He gazed upon the carnage he unleashed. He made sure Gato didn't die, and he for sure made sure Gato didn't fall unconscious. Then, in a single motion, he cut the neck. It was such a clean slice that the kunai made a sound of slicing. Schling. And Gato was no more. Naruto calmly enjoyed the sight of his head rolling off to the side, before noticing the faint, pulsating black orb in Gato's carnage. He reached into it and shattered it in his palm, and the ore seeped into his body. Naruto was shocked at how much he got. Nearly the size of a tennis ball from one person. So even evil people, humans, have this? He relished the sickening feeling once again. Before eyeing all the delinquents who burned down the bridge, he opened his mouth to show mercy. Let them repent, but the carnage of Gato caught his eye, and he knew that it was not worth the effort. Finish them now, finish the job. The words of his senpai years ago resonated in his head. To never let his opponent gain an opportunity to retaliate is to be a hidden protector of the leaf. The clutch on the kunai strengthened. And then the kunai vanished. Like a magic trick, it reappeared inside someone's head. Ah! A visceral shout later, all hell broke loose upon the land. A builder, who survived the burning and purging by delinquents, gave the bridge its second name, after the one Tazuna gives. The Bridge of the Crimson Purge. Eventually, there was a stench of blood so thick it made a Jounin nauseous. Kurenai had a suspicion this would happen, seeing the actions of Naruto beforehand. Through the bodies, Naruto came drenched in blood, looking as though he's lost all hope on something. After seeing Kurenai, he stumbled and fell unconscious. Before he did, he muttered, "I need a better body." Kurenai couldn't hear it, and rushed over to help Naruto. As she gazed upon the face of the child, calm and innocent, she scanned the scene more closely. She's seen how he handled delinquent shinobi before. This was more savage. It was done not with the intent to be finished with it but rather an intent to kill. Yet somehow she managed to think amongst this carnage, as an exhausted, unconscious boy lay in her lap. What a badass way to start off your shinobi career, Naruto. She also knew that the moment the Hokage hears of this, it's going to become Anbu recruitment time for Naruto soon. How could the Hokage pass up the opportunity to enlist the Jonin with potential and skill like Naruto's into the only spot in the world where skill and potential were in abundance? She looked at the calm boy in her arms and frowned. Though Anbu isn't for children. 2 weeks after the mission completion, Naruto's shadow clone, Kakashi, and Sasuke were sparring against the original Naruto. Since Team 7 was about to pass the infamous week 10 where Jonin squads are applicable for higher level missions, Sasuke and the team would need to learn to fight against shinobi, as a team. Since Sasuke has always been fighting 1v1, his teamwork lagged proportional to how fast his solo skills progressed. Fortunately, Naruto foresaw this and started teamwork training in advance. This was the very reason he relearned the shadow clone. Currently, the situation was quite dire, and still building up. Since Naruto was the center of operations, he, Shadow Clone Naruto, aka S. Naruto, was at the forefront giving call-outs. S. Flank right. K. Maintain high ground and visual. I'm moving in. He moved in towards the original, swapping between kunais to find his sharpest one. Rapidly stepping sideways, he circled Naruto concealed. But they both knew where the other was. Say that 5 times real fast. S. Naruto rushed in, leaving a small crater in the ground, while using the physical movement and illusory techniques to disappear from sight in flashes while rushes. He'd be running, and then he'd disappear for a moment, then reappear in the same direction he was running before he disappeared, covering the same distance he did if he didn't disappear. All the worse when S. Naruto started running in an erratic zigzag. Rushing in, shouted Sasuke in an adrenaline frenzy, once Naruto's focus was entirely on his clone. And then instantly, the spar was over. S. Naruto puffed away, and Sasuke was caught by the collar and chucked towards Kakashi, where they both collided and fell down painfully. Sasuke made the dumb mistake of calling himself out before attacking. Dumbass. That's the end, guys. If you enjoyed, then make sure to leave a comment. This is Chaos Shinobi signing off.